Order in the court. Wait, it's not a court.
Here comes good.
I want to welcome everyone to the Windsor Board of Education regular meeting of Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. We'll first have the pledge, if everybody could rise, and then we'll have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Next order of business is recognitions and acknowledgements, and we have a proclamation today for Teacher Appreciation Week, which is May 8th through 12th, and I'd like to read it, then we'll ask our WEA officers to come up and get a picture with the group. Proclamation commemorating Windsor Teacher Appreciation Week, May 8th through May 12th, 2023. Let it be known by all citizens of Windsor that whereas Windsor's teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling, and coaching students. Whereas our teachers serve in partnership with parents to ensure the appropriate education for all children. Whereas Windsor's teachers inspire students to think strategically and to integrate experience and knowledge to form reasoned judgments. Whereas Windsor's teachers support SEL throughout childhood and adolescence because of the long-term social benefits to society. Whereas the Windsor Board of Education respectfully acknowledges each and every one of the district's teachers for their dedication to the families of Windsor community. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed on this 18th day of April 2023 that Windsor Board of Education hereby declares our appreciation to our teaching staff and proclaims the week of May 8th through May 12th as Windsor Teacher Appreciation Week. Signed by David Fury, President, and Dr. Terrell Hill, Superintendent of Schools.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
And a proud parent as a senior.
Congratulations. Congratulations, sir. Likewise.
We always lose you in pictures.
Because I'm short.
I think she get over here.
Are you interested?
Get over here.
I'm short too. I'm short too.
You got the shorties in
I know.
front.
The shorties should all stand together.
How many you want me to take?
My turn.
Bring your life. I need better for you.
That's usually, I was almost unsure if this was my seat or your seat.
Oh, yeah.
But if it still works, let it do what it's doing to do.
Want to take a second of personal privilege here. We are blessed to have John and Jen as WEA leaders here. My wife was a longtime member of WEA and a teacher with Jen at one point, and John somehow got my kids through Sage Park, so that was, I know, not an easy thing to do. During the Sage Park years, I like to send them to Sage Park and get them back as late as possible. Those days, luckily, as people progressed, many who've had them through middle school ages, but thank you for both of your dedication to our students, to your fellow staff, and to be working with the board and Dr. Hill for the benefit of everyone. And just seeing SEL added to the long list of things. It used to be a very short list probably when we used to thank our teachers, but you guys do everything. And again, I want a round of applause from all of us to thank you so much. Okay. Next item, Robin, is audience to visitor. If you could read your script.
Good evening. This is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If there's anyone from the public who would like to address the board, you may do so in two different ways. If you are using the Zoom application on your mobile device or computer, you may enter your comments into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom menu bar. Or you may raise your hand on your computer if your device has a microphone by selecting the participant's icon in the Zoom menu bar and then clicking raise hand, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. When you are called on, you'll be prompted with "You are now unmuted." For clear communication, we ask that you do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own.
Thank you very much. And for those in the room, at the 2.5-minute mark, our Vice President, Mr. Lockhart, will raise a red card briefly, just to let you know to start winding up your remarks. And at the 3-minute mark, he'll raise it and keep holding it. At that point, please finish your remarks. And for people who may be on the telephone, if they call in, at some point, Mr. Lockhart will interrupt you to let you know to wind up your remarks. So first, I'll start, as I usually do. Is there anybody in the boardroom who'd like to address the board tonight? Seeing, please come up here. Give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Up here? Okay. Hi.
You can sit and...
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Make yourself comfortable.
Alrighty. Hi, my name is Andrea Luan, 166 Giddings Avenue, and I'm also a teacher at Pequannock. I'd like to speak on behalf of some of the elementary specialist teachers about the specialist staffing. Currently, Oliver Ellsworth has 25 classrooms, and Pequannock has 24, so they're very comparable in numbers, yet there's a lot of discrepancies between how much specialist staffings the two schools get. OE has a full-time general music teacher. Pequannock has 0.8, split between two teachers. OE has a full-time strings teacher. Pequannock has a 0.6 strings teacher, and there's a waiting list of over 30 kids. It's the only elementary instrumental music program that has a waiting list. OE also has a full-time art teacher. Pequannock has 0.6, split between two different schools, or two different teachers, and as a result, preschoolers don't get art at Pequannock. Clover, JFK, and Pequannock all share a health teacher, while OE has one full-time health teacher at their building. And as a result, preschoolers at Pequannock also don't get health, and K through 2 students don't have health every week. And while art, music, and health have vast discrepancies in how they're staffed, all buildings at the K through 5 level have a full-time library media specialist, phys ed teacher, and so that shows that while we're supporting, full-time staffing in some areas, it's not equal across all the specialist subjects. And what we would really like to see is for all our students to have equal opportunities. We would love to see full-time elementary specialists in every subject, in art, band, health, library, music, PE, strings. And also, I'm not remembering what year it was. It was right before COVID hit. It was actually approved in the budget to have more staffing for music. It was 0.6 at the elementary level. And then due to COVID, the position was never filled, and then it just kind of disappeared. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to address the board? Don't everyone rush at once. Seeing no one else here, is there anyone online or on the phone?
At this time, there are no hands raised in the Zoom feature, and there are no Q&As either.
And just a reminder, if people are tuning in, there's another opportunity for audience to visitor at the end of the meeting. Without objection to my board members, we'll close audience to visitor. Next item is the consent agenda. And before we have the motion, is there any items that folks want to be pulled?
Yeah, I'd like to pull the enrollment report.
Enrollment. Any other report? So is there a motion?
Move the Board of Education approves the consent agenda items 4A, financial report, 4C, food services report, and 4D, human resources report.
A second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries 800. Mr. Vice President.
Move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda item 4B, enrollment report.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, second by Mr. Panos for the enrollment report. And I'll start with Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody, first of all. I just would like to highlight, as we all know, the high number of students we have and not in our Windsor schools. So if we turn over to Windsor students not in district schools, we look down and we see it's at 687. We have 240 at correct miscellaneous magnet schools, 49 at MLC, 4 at Montessori Hartford. And those are pretty much the ones I'm mainly concerned about because those are the ones that are costing us the most, as well as the out-of-district placements for SPED, even though that case is kind of particular because sometimes those students we just can't handle in district. So the reason why I do bring this up is because just looking at what's happening across the state as far as out of placement and the way it's affecting budgets of cities like Danbury and Bridgeport, who are large cities with a low tax base and not very well funded as far as public school goes. And I believe that we have to be a little bit more proactive in this aspect. I would like to even just see what more we can do as far as marketing to the students that we have lost and to various CREC schools. I know we don't have any students out in charters as of right now, but just for various students that we have lost, because this is a big line item on our budget. For the proposed budget, I believe it was about 1.8 million that we're sending out to the various magnet schools in the states. And If we start some sort of campaign, I believe that we can cut back the cost. Even if it really costs us a few thousand, we could possibly save hundreds of thousands just by putting that investment in taking the time to try to reach people and show them what we have to offer here at Windsor. And I just, I guess I'd ask Dr. Hill about any initiatives we may have or any plans he has to market to the students that we have lost to various magnets.
Dr. Hill, I don't know if you want to address it.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. This is actually, an ongoing concern for the district. Windsor is a very high participant when it comes to these programs, and so, yes, we have started to develop some efforts to do our best to recruit students back. And thank you for bringing it up and being on the microphone, because I think something I like to say to the public is that a lot of times families have a belief that these schools, because it's different from their hometown school, there's something greater to be offered. So I want to do my best to not bash any other school, because that's not what we're here for. But yes, we are working on efforts to reach out to those students and their families to reconsider coming to Windsor. I also want to be clear, some students have never come to Windsor schools. Right? It's just been their choice. And that's what happens when you have a choice system. But we absolutely want to do our best to try to create a recruiting process, or I'm probably going to call it a reclamation process, to get them to come back and see what they actually have here. But my experience tells me people believe that, early on when these schools, CREC was really doing its thing, they were just newer schools. And, quite frankly, I've been very vocal to my colleagues at CREC and to the state for years. People like shiny new things. There's no data to say that they've had better outcomes. That's not putting them down. It's just real. All of our information is out there publicly. So they haven't outperformed us. So we're going to do our best, but I just need the public to hear that and understand that. People pick for various reasons. And even when I talk to family members, right, and folks, and it's like, wow, this school has a nice name. But, those are hard conversations to have with people who don't really know, right? They see a new building, they see a cool name, they imagine, oh, wow, that must be something different there. And it's not always the case, and definitely the performance, you're not necessarily getting something better than your hometown schools at all. But we'll continue to work on this.
And I know that before the pandemic, we saw our numbers slightly increasing, where 2/3 of the state public schools had populations decreasing. So we were able to, in passing budgets, be able to say, no, we're going to have more, to some people who didn't know that, no, we're actually going to have more students next year, at least projected. And unfortunately, I did look at the report, how we look at October, when the state determines our funding, and where we are now, and we're so much ahead in either schools have either stayed about the same, or all the other Windsor schools have increased enrollment. So we are also penalized to some degree by the way the funding works at the state level. So
that's why I thank Mr. Wilson for bringing this up, because we have to get our reclamation efforts going now. Because what'll happen, I know it's recorded right here, I go start more trouble. They will kind of keep students until you hit that deadline in October. It's like October 1st, somewhere. And so then they'll let kids go. But we're not going to get the money. So if the parents and the kid don't move before that time, I've seen it from both sides, working here, working in Hartford, and I could get kids from Windsor, right? Like, I don't have to turn that paperwork in that fast. And October 1st, you happen to get the paperwork. It's a little late. I already got the number for the year, and I get the money. The district doesn't get the money back. So the efforts will start this spring. Hopefully we can get people to do something, before. And I will say, too, because it bothers me, so I'm going to say it to the public, we do get them back when they mess up. So, I would like you to not mess up and come back to Windsor. Thank you.
Mr. Halleck, then Mr. Panos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just curious if this might be a issue for the long-term planning committee, to possibly look into how we might be able to market, to bring some of these students back. So.
Great idea.
That's what I would recommend.
Thank you. And I know you're a member of that committee.
I am.
As is Mr. Wollaston.
Oh, so that's it. They're drumming up business.
Are they plotting here?
Mr. Wilson, the chair.
Yeah.
But I think we have to move quick. So long-term planning is just that. Like, it's a good thing. It doesn't mean you can't still look at it, but this is, like I said, this has been an issue for years and years.
Maybe we'll
This
have
is
to
not-
rename it Long and Short Range Planning Committee.
Or immediate efforts.
Mr. Panos.
If you're addressing a budgetary issue, though, I just have to point out that a lot of these don't cost us anything. Right? Like the Hartford
ones.
The Hartford Magnet Schools, 206 students who, by the chef accord, ends up that when someone attends a Hartford Magnet School, I think we probably had some folks up here with use that, you find out that it does not cost us anything. So, I mean, there may be issues of pride and things of that nature that we would want to attract them back. But from the point of view of budget, it's strictly speaking, it's not an issue. The other one, it may look like let's say with the other 240 or 49, you say this correct Montessori, Hartford, that's or the correct. All the corrects here is about 300 or so. The average cost that we pay for them is what, on the order of $4,000 or $5,000. Don't know what is read, but that average cost is significantly less than our variable cost, which is around what 17 or 18. So, there are reasons to want to have our students come here, but budgetary reasons are not, strictly speaking, the main driver, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace, anybody else? First time, Mr. Lockhart, then Mr. Wollaston.
So I see it from both sides. From a personal perspective, as a board member, we spoke about this probably about 5-6 years ago, where we had a lot of kids going to MLC. I believe that number was in triple digits at the time, and we made a very concerted effort to try to see exactly what was MLC offering to the children, and then what could we do to compete to win them back. That was a very, very targeted campaign. We would have to look at this 253 number because I know for a fact there's some things that CREC is doing in some of these schools that, frankly, we just don't do. For example, Montessori pedagogy. We don't offer that. We don't have AMS-trained staff to execute that program, so therefore that's something that if a person wants to have their child Montessori educated, that's what CREC offers. We just can't do that. So I would love to see what all 253 of these children are doing, what programs are they instituting, and then is there something that we can actually compete in a very ethical and financial way to win them back. We may see that we can probably only win back 25% of these kids. If that's the case, then at least we know exactly what that number is and have a targeted effort. I can say my children are better for their Montessori education and openly admit if they had a program that went all the way through high school, I would have kept them there. But that's just my choice. I understand families have choices for their kids, and it's our job to make sure that we provide that open opportunity in a non-adversarial way. So I understand that. We understand CREC has been running deficits for years, and we knew this time was coming. That's why 5-6 years ago, we started looking to see, we got to win these children back now, because if we don't win them back, and they start charging us the full price for these children because they're not getting the money from the state, it's going to be a fiscal cliff for us. We're almost at that point. So there's a lot of moving variables. I agree with Mr. Wollaston. I would love to see what we can do to win these kids back, what we're doing now. But I think we just need to do a little deeper dive to see what are these 253 kids getting that we can't.
Where'd you get 253 from?
Oh, I'm sorry. My math isn't complete. It's two. Let me put my glasses on. Okay, 240 plus 49, that's 289. And then so it's 293. I stand corrected. Now I'm gonna take these glasses back off. It's 293. Okay, so those are the kids that we need to look at and see, can we win them back? And thank you for correcting my math.
I thought it was,
That would equal, as Mr. Pennell said, you know, although it's not the exact amount as one of our students, he's right, that would be $1.1 million.
Right.
If we could get all those kids back.
Right. That's a lot of money.
That is.
Yep.
Mr. Williston?
Yeah, so first things first, I just wanted to say I'm a big supporter of building our own community. So therefore, from that, I believe strongly in keeping our kids in our community, because how are we going to build our own community by sending our kids out? Unless, like Mr. Lockhart said, there's a better opportunity for them out there that we don't have to offer. And as far as the budgetary side of it, so there is new legislation that's coming down from the House that will possibly be voted on and likely be voted in. House Bill 5003. It increases the monies that magnets will be entitled to, and the state will be covering it now, but there is also language that says if the state can't pay in the future, then the sending towns will have to pick up that tab. So while it can seem as if it is less expensive to us now, as that same bill has sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Verbiage. I'm going to say that because I can't remember what I'm saying. Has language, sorry. The same bill has language to say that tuition for magnets can increase with personal income and with inflation. So the numbers we see now down the line in a few years could be possibly much higher because they're lobbying and acting for much more money. So it is very important, I believe, that we start some sort of initiative to be able to get these students back in before 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road. We're looking at very big bills that we slept on because we kind of saved a little bit of money now. So that's kind of really my my main drive for really seeing what we can do around attracting our students and our families and having them understand the importance of investing in your community by having your children be a participant in the community that they live in.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Clay's first time, and Mr. Panos.
Thank you. I truly believe that students and parents should have choice, so I think that's a really great thing. I just really wish that they would have informed choice. So I think that our public school system assumes a certain amount of understanding of what we do here. So I think it is reclamation, but I also think there's certain touch points in parents and students' lives that we really need to be reaching out to them. So if you're pre-K or even kindergarten and maybe put your child into a private kindergarten, private preschool, you might not even really have any interaction with our school systems. If you go to look at a CREC school, they have a night, they explain all their programs to you, they tell you what the focus is going to be like, you meet everybody, they have nice pamphlets. So I'm just suggesting that I understand we have to do something now around reclamation, but we also might want to consider for the long-term committee to really think about those moments that we can publicize and market ourselves to explain what it is, why Windsor Public Schools are a benefit. I think that it grows our community when our kids are able to attend our schools and do, but I do understand the choice. Believe me, one of my daughters attended a magnet school for her middle school years. She came back to Windsor High. So, but, I just think that a lot of people move into town and they don't even know the public schools, and they get a lot of outreach from other kinds of opportunities. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Why don't you,
Cantor?
Ms. Cantor?
Thank you.
And Mr. Panos.
I think a lot of times parents do not research the schools, like the town school, and like you were saying, the magnet schools and the crack, and they don't understand what Windsor has. I think Windsor has a lot to offer, and the student needs to apply themselves, and the parents need to be involved. And I know Dr. Hill had mentioned that he wanted to add courses in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Panos, then Ms. Taylor.
Yeah, I can only contrast here I recall that in the 90s, when the MLC was being talked about, this was were members of the board were all excited about this, and we were one of the original, Windsor was one of the original member towns that contributed, and we guaranteed that we would send, I think it was 125 students a year. And then about 10 years ago, I think it was, Dr. Peck was the, Mr. Peck, okay, was board president, and you know, somebody said that this was, you know, not a good idea, and so they got out, they somehow got out of the deal. I don't know how they arranged that, and so that's why you see this is that the MLC is down to 49 as opposed to, in fact, we've had lower than this before. So it is, it's quite a change in the, just the way people perceive the magnet schools. It was the be-all and end-all, and correct, you know, had, but they are a pretty high-priced group, correct. I mean, I think that if we found the average cost over there, I think we'd find it enormously high because the state, they're state supported, and they go, you know, they don't chintz on anything. But you know, it's a, there's a value, of course, in a certain amount of competition, and of course, like Mr. Lockhart has pointed out, he's availed himself, Mrs. Claves have availed themselves of this choice, and so it's there is a value to it. It's just that if it becomes extreme, and they can become, they certainly seem. I mean, I recall when they first started, it was our budget was about the same as theirs. Their budget now is about $350 million compared to our 75. I mean, that gives you an idea of what growth, what that agreement ended up doing. That was the agreement with Chef. That is the impetus for this, was the Chef agreement at the state level. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Taylor.
Yes, thank you. I think that when we're talking about bringing families back and bringing, you know, children back, and to Ms. Clace's point, new families. A lot of families are moving into Windsor with no children or babies. It's so important to put our best foot forward. I think how we're doing that already, and you know, pat ourselves on the back, is our social media campaign. There's people in, you know, in my family that have no children in Windsor, but I share the things that we're doing, and then now they're following. Our social media is really lit. You go on Instagram, and we have like followers not only for the district, but our sports and all the things, and the all of the academics that's happening. That's the branding is in our kids. They do it every day. He's sitting right there. You know what I mean? I feel like there's no better sales pitch to Windsor to show, you know, the signing days and the decision making, and bringing back alumni that have done some pretty special things. I think that right there, it doesn't cost us much. We have had billboards in the past. Dr. Hill has pushed these amazing billboards. When we do, and our students do, and our educators do amazing things, it needs to be in the paper. It needs to be on social media. It needs to be pushed so that people know, because people don't know what they don't know. And if you came to Windsor and you're going based on what you read in those, anything goes on the Facebook pages and stuff, because people don't want to share anything until they're upset. But I'm thinking, you know, future forward, if we want to showcase what's happening and bring people back, show them what's happening to bring people back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I think we're approaching a portion here of having to vote on this. So all those in favor of the enrollment report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 800. Approval of minutes of March 21st, 2023. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, President Fury. I move the Board of Education approve the minutes of the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Ms. Cantor?
I see that my comments were excluded or omitted when I talked about DACO, the two incidentals regarding Bus A, and then being late, 5:20, and then the illegal stops that occurred on Route 159. Those were not contained in the minutes.
If we could, Mr. Lockhart?
To you, were you looking for the exact verbiage being in
No,
there?
I didn't see anything at all in there on it.
Okay.
Under the president's rule. I can send a blurb after tomorrow if you want.
Why don't you send that to Dr. Hill and Ms. Daly? And hopefully they can summarize it to amend
Thank you.
it.
Because I looked at the video too again last night, reviewed it. Thank you.
Looking to my parliamentarian hat, Mr. Lockhart, do we approve this subject to amendment at the next meeting?
Yep, it's with the understanding that our comments are not verbatim unless it's a motion. At that point, you have the right to have your comments verbatim placed when you make your vote. But if it's general discussion, it could just be something that's just overarching, such and such person had these particular comments, and it's just a brief overview.
Is that acceptable?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
It's just nothing was in there, that's why.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion's been made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 800. Next item, student representative report. Mr. Davis.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So it is an exciting time to be a warrior. April has been an amazing month. The weather is finally getting good again. The sun is out. The birds are chirping. We are seeing a lot more students outside again. So that being said, a lot of people are starting to teach outside again, and that's giving us more motivation because fourth quarter is starting. And you guys know I'm a senior. Senioritis is a real thing. So we are really, really, really pushing. So congrats to Team Paragon on success at Western New England University. I got to see it a little bit on the Instagram page. Congrats, guys. Kiwanis, Alvin J. Frixell Jr., they had a scholarship dinner. That jazz ensemble, they were able to play their set. And speaking of jazz ensemble, they hosted a successful concert featuring the Yukon Sax Quartet. That was our night of jazz, participating in that amazing experience to not only participate, but to play with people on the next level, on the collegiate level. So speaking of our music department, our choir students had a partnership with the elementary schools, performing their Apollo set. Amazing, amazing feedback from that. Next, our student leaders pushing with dress code in school lunches. That has been amazing. So really just still collecting data and just really pushing. And as you all know, we've had a well-rested spring break. We all wish it was longer. But that being said, that gave our students more energy to really finish out fourth quarter strong after we've had SATs, which juniors have started to receive scores back. Amazing job, guys. Our post-secondary announcements and decisions are coming up very soon in less than 2 weeks. Capstone projects for seniors and our music department field trip that has coming up to Hershey Park. Super excited for that, So we're ready to compete and dominate as always. So JROTC, they have hosted amazing military ball as this year they have hosted it. Amazing job. So some events that are coming up are senior prom, outing, spring concerts for our music department, National Honor Society induction, all school awards, and yes, so it's been an amazing month overall.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions for our representative from Windsor High School? No? You certainly have a lot of things going on. And
I left it out? Okay.
oh,
Well, decision day is May 1st, but I'll announce it now. So Sunday, we officially decided I will be attending Hampton University on band scholarship, majoring in music education. Yes.
She just got done saying.
Yeah.
People going down the street, the schools that don't do it. You see that? Like, this is what we do in Windsor. So you gotta talk about it.
So you guys seen all the concerts and everything over the years, so I decided to go with music. It's my calling. I love to do it and really impact teachers and how the music teachers at Windsor have done to me. I really want to change lives. So, yeah.
And as usual, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting or part of the meeting, and also I know as a student, even though things are winding down, I'm sure you still have a lot to do, so it's up to you. Next item on the agenda is Board of Education's agenda, and the first President's Report. And again, want to say I'm excited that our WAEA co-presidents were here today to receive the proclamation of Teacher Appreciation Week. And as I said earlier, it's always just another thing that seems to be added that we have responsible for our teaching staff and others in our building. So thank you very much. I know Mr. Davis did mention it, but a shout out to both the Technology Student Association and Team Paragon for successful competitions in the month of April. And our TSA, Technology Student Association, every year keeps causing budgetary problems for us because they're so successful, and we want to support them. And hopefully some of them will be heading to Kentucky at the end of June, start of July. Hopefully we have money for that program because it's outstanding. Coming up on April 29th is the Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine group that's in town here sponsoring a 5K to support the Weekend Wheels program that we have, the feeding program, where we get children, families, meals on the weekend. So still can sign up for that, either to walk or to run, and again, goes back to our families. At CABE, we have a monthly checking the boat with one hole on one side and there's a hole on the other side. What have we really done? So, a shout out to the efforts that have been done here, and Dr. Hill also being able to include some of the SEL specialist positions in the regular budget. But it's also good to know, in talking to other chairs, that they also have a lot of similar issues that we have here in Windsor, including passing a budget. And we were very successful when going to the town council. It looked like they were very supportive of our budget. At this point in time, didn't have to go to a second meeting, and I think we answered all their questions. Some were relating to the budget, and some were just relating to what's going on in Windsor schools. And we're very proud of what's going on in Windsor schools. So I think that was very easy for us. And thank you to Ms. Batchelder and Dr. Hill and Mr. Lockhart for working on that presentation to the town. One last thing is the Windsor Chamber of Commerce has an online auction that ends this Friday, I think at 5 o'clock, and you can still bid on items. One of the recipients is the Windsor Education Foundation. So I usually try to take a look at that when it gets towards the end, figure out what to bid on, what may still be below market or just slightly above market to bid on. But again, one of the two entities of recipients will be Windsor Education Foundation. That's all I have. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Windsor High School, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Wollaston. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, President Fury. It is very difficult to go after Mr. Davis, but I'm going to try. He mentioned the music department's trip to compete in Pennsylvania. I am a chaperone. Play for your girl. Okay. They're great kids. We're going to have fun. I wanted to do a quick shout out to, is she still here? Erica Fenjulo. She, a dear personal friend of mine, State Treasurer Eric Russell, reached out, and I think we mentioned this last month, how he had come to the high school to speak to the students take a tour of the school, and he was so impressed by our students. Again, you have to say it. He was so impressed. He's hosting the first Connecticut Investors Conference, and he's given opportunity for 5 students to attend. So thank you, Ms. Fangiulo, for identifying those 5 students. I'm excited, possibly maybe to have them come and speak to us, let us know how that was for them. That will be later on in the month of May. But again, having folks come and checking out what we're doing in the space is so key, because again, he's now on tour, and I want to go, hey, he started here first. So that's exciting. Shout outs to the boys volleyball team. I've checked out a game or two, and it is intense. Please join us at a match, because it's wonderful, 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 wonderful to support our new sports teams. And of course, this is their first year being an official team. And the last but not least, I think Mr. Davis mentioned it. When you're driving past, the campus of Windsor High School and you see a ball game happening, just pull over and check it out. You won't be disappointed. There's some really amazing scholar athletes that are really doing amazing things, and it really costs you nothing but your time to just pop in and see what we're doing here at Windsor High School. Thank you.
Mr. Wollaston.
Yes, I had the opportunity to sit in with the Windsor High School Action Club as they discuss the dress code and the changes that they'd like to see. And I'd say that I'm really impressed with, firstly, the interest that the students have in policy in general. Tomorrow, oh no, not tomorrow, on Thursday the 20th, day before my birthday, they'll be having a policy drafting day in which they will try to put together a policy that they think will best represent today's times and the interests of the students, while still being respectful to the boundaries that a dress code should set. So I've been very impressed. I haven't said much, as I feel like it should really be student-led and not. We do our policy here in policy committee. I'm not really trying to go to their group and then try to force their thoughts in any way, but best support them and encourage them to be young minds that explore, inquire, and continue to be intuitive. So I'm very impressed with the Action Club, and I'm happy to have an opportunity to really just sit in and hear the voices of the students and see what they'll put together on Thursday.
Do you know whether or not they're going to present to the Governance Council, which you and Ms. Taylor obviously are the board representatives to?
I believe that'll be the next step, but they have to get through the drafting first, yeah.
Dr. Hill?
So thank you. I want to make sure, so it's like I hear we're like working on 2 different fronts. So I have my student advisory groups in each school, and the dress code, so the policy is the boards. But what I've learned is that the part that they want to address is not the policy, it's the AR. So I want to make sure that our groups, and we can connect offline or connect with the folks in the school to make sure my student advisory group and the Action Club, because I don't ever want to diminish student work, that they're working together. But the policy is pretty set by the board. And so even all these years, I thought like, oh, well, that's the board policy. But no, the AR, which is under our purview, is the part that the changes need to be made. So I want to make sure those groups work together as well. And they can still continue what they're doing with, the policy changes, obviously, but I know what they're trying to get at as well. And the policy itself is not going to do it. It's the subsequent AR. So I just want to make sure both groups are. I like seeing students work. So it's like, because they talk a lot about stuff, so when you see students work, you don't want to stop them. But I just want to make sure that we don't have people just working in 2 different directions. That's all.
So that's pretty much what they have. They've kind of like coined the day as like their dress code, like drafting day, in which they will be writing what they want to see, and I believe they will propose those changes.
Is it during the day or be in the evening? Thursday?
It'll be. Let me see. I have it pulled up right here. 2:30.
Right after school. Okay.
It's at 2:40 this time. 2:40. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
That's cool.
Thank you. Pull up. I'm gonna be there.
Questions for Windsor High School reps? Okay, the next is Sage Park, Mr. Halleck and Ms. Clace, and usually she defers to Mr. Halleck, so Mr. Halleck.
All right, thank you. May 8th through the 12th is going to be the A Smarter, A Balanced Language Arts testing. May 10th will be the A Cluster Expo from 6 until 7:15. I'm planning on attending that. Always a great event. May 15th is the General Science testing for grade 8. And a day after our next meeting, May 17th, will be the spring choral concert at Sage Park. And that concludes my report.
Okay, Ms. Clace?
I have nothing to add, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Halleck, I guess? Seeing none. Clover Street School, Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you. I have no report, but thank you. I have no report, but as always, I will encourage parents to always go to the website, and it's always updated. I receive the weekly communications coming out from Clover Street, so I'm sure the parents are getting those as well for all the information you need. Thanks.
Mr. Cantor,
Thank you.
JFK.
I have a few things to report. I just want to give a great shout out, big yell hi, thank you to all the educators for doing an awesome job taking care of our kids and their parents. Also, I want to celebrate Administrative Assistants Week. That's coming up. I know we depend on our assistants to get everything done, and they're always getting the last note, at the end of the day, and people are walking out the door and they're still sitting there making it happen for all of us. I also want to thank the nurses. We're celebrating Nurses Week. Florence Nightingale's birthday is May 12th, and she's known as the lady with the lamp. She rounded on patients in the dark carrying her lamp with oil. And I just wanted to read to you a brief thing. It's what personality do most nurses have? Nurses tend to be predominantly investigative individuals, which means they are quite inquisitive and curious people, and they often like to spend time alone with their thoughts. They also tend to be social, meaning that they thrive in situations where they can interact, persuade, or help people. Now, on April is Autism Awareness. They're celebrating that at JFK. They had their PTO meeting on April 3rd. On Thursday, tomorrow night, April 20th, they have the JFK Literacy and STEM Night from 5:30 to 7, and they're going to have Once Upon a Time at JFK Fairy Tales and Literacy and STEM Night, it's called. The students took a practice test for, I believe it was SBAC, for reading, math, and science on grade 5 on April 3rd, and they're going to take the real, actual SBAC test in May. There's time to still enroll in the summer enrichment programs that will be happening July 10th through July 27th, Monday through Thursday. It's 3 weeks. The one course is $100, two is $203. Okay, and you can order your yearbook, and that's my end. Thank you.
Any questions regarding JFK?
President Fury? Just want to correct one thing. It was in my report, but I want to make sure what Ms. Cantor just said. I just want to update that registration is closed for the summer enrichment program.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure.
missed it.
Because I don't want people to say, well, two people said two different things, because that was going to be my first point. Thank you.
Oliver Ellsworth, we don't have Julene here. Does anybody have, did she give a report to anyone?
No. Sorry.
One item I know, because I'm attending it, is they have a STEM night coming up on April 27th from 6 to 7 o'clock. Next, Pequannock School.
Okay, they just say, well, this Thursday, throughout the day, they're going to be planting seeds around this part of the science program there. They also on the 20th is Thursday. They're going to have a sort of a parade around the Yard Goats baseball field, 6 p.m. Awards will be given to students, and game starts at 7, and Pequannock parents can have purchased tickets for themselves, and they'll be all sitting together. They also have another one, Yard Goat game. I guess we're going to baseball a lot, on May 6th. So, Tomorrow, I understand that there's going to be a walkthrough by all the administrators at Pequannock around 1 o'clock, right? The district-wide walkthrough by the administrators to observe what learning is taking place in the classrooms. And regarding family feedback from climate surveys, I guess we had responses, and Mr. Mahalko says 98% of the responses said that the parents feel that they are fully engaged with the Pequannock community, and they've had significant, increases in the number of responses. And so that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Pequannock? Ms. Clace?
Paul, I'm wondering, Mr. Panos, I'm wondering if next time you speak with the PTO president at Pequannock, if you could find out if there's any feedback from the parents regarding the arts programs that the teacher spoke about.
The what?
Regarding the arts programs that the teacher spoke about.
Right, okay.
Around music and the arts, what they're thinking about that, or if there was anything addressed in the school climate survey from those parents.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mr. Panos.
Anyone else for Pequannock? Okay. Next item, 7C, set the last day of school for 2022-2023. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, President Fury.
We may start with a motion on that, and then we'll move it to you for discussion. Is there a motion?
Move the Board of Education approve a change to the approved 2022-2023 calendar, setting Friday, June 9th, 2023, as the last day of school for students in grades pre-K to grade 11, and the last day for teachers would be Monday, June 12th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Now, Dr. Hill, unless there's nothing to add to that.
So you caught me off guard, President Fury, because I'm like, I know it's normally just a motion, and if you need explanation, I just will say to the public that obviously the school year shifted because of the 2 snow days. I don't know when we will be able to say that again, that we had only 2 snow days. One was a stretch. So I got my emails for that one.
Sure you did.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. It's you got to be a little thick to do this, so it's all good. I can handle it. So the students basically with the already having 1 day above the 180 that's required by the state, they're only really going a day beyond what they had. So it's still going to be a pretty long summer for students and the staff.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring that to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries 800. Next item, 7D, healthy food certification. And we could start by having 2 separate motions and then have Ms. Batchelder describe it. Unless, Ms. Batchelder, you feel you want to go first on these. Why don't we start with a motion, Mr. Lockhart?
First motion, the Windsor Board of Education pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 10-215F. The Windsor Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutritional standards published by the State of Connecticut Department of Education during the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. The certificate shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from the reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. And I know for board members, we get this each year. So we're used to this, but Ms. Batchelder, if you could kind of give a quick overview of why we're doing this?
Sure. So Windsor is going on its 15th year. We've completed the 14th year of being a healthy food certified district. So what that means is we follow all the state and federal guidelines, and we receive 10 cents for every meal that is served to our students as a reimbursement.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstention? Motion carries 800. Mr. Lockhart, motion number 2.
Right, this is a longer motion.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Move the Windsor Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutritional standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event, quote, end quote, is an occurrence that involves more than just a regular scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day, in quotes, is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location, in quotes, means where the event is being held and must be the same place as will the food and beverage sales.
Is there a
I
second?
second it. Thank you.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 800. Next item on the agenda is Superintendent's Report. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, President Fury. Because I know we have a presentation, I will not repeat all of the commentary that's been made, except for a couple, because I want to stress some things. So I will stress that we are in our spring sports season, and I am going to encourage folks, as Ms. Taylor said, to get out to see, any of the games. The students, they work hard, they represent our district well, and we need to get to some, any one of the games. You don't have to stay the whole time, but just show up, show your face, say hello. I'm sure once you get caught up in the game or the match, you'll stay longer. I myself have to get to the new boys volleyball matches. I look forward to that, seeing an intense match. I have to watch myself, though, because people watch what you say when you're cheering and yelling and screaming. I also want to give my congratulations to Team Paragon and also to Ms. Rickus and the TSA conference that was held. What can you say Ms. Rickus is doing? I got to get used to that name. I'm like,
yes.
Who is that? I keep saying it every time I see it written. But I remember she was married, so name change. So Ms. Rickus is doing, continues to do a wonderful job with our students and the TSA program. So this is another great thing that's happening here in Windsor year after year. These are not new things, families. I'm plugging. Also, a big, big, big piece here, something that I'm looking forward to. We had a dual enrollment night held at the high school, and we had Mr. Chris Todd, so a former Windsor teacher, come. He is now the ECE coordinator at the University of Connecticut, and ECE is the Early College Experience courses. We already offer some. My goal as superintendent is to increase the number of ECE offerings, and I will keep saying not to do anything to the AP program, not to eliminate AP, not to decrease AP. I got to say that because people tend to hear what they want to hear. So we are not doing anything to AP, but I am definitely an ECE fan. I love the opportunity for students to earn college credit as they take the course. It is the course that's taught at the school, and we are in the process of building partnerships with some of our other state colleges and universities. So students will take those courses when teachers are trained and approved by the college. And when they finish the course, they take the same exam that students take on the campus, and they earn the credit. They do not have to go to that college. The credit is earned and is on a transcript that can be transferred to any other school. So I am a fan of that, and that is one of my goals, to increase our ECE offerings at Windsor High School. Also, I wanted to point out that the jazz concert, Night of Jazz, was held April 6th, so I know that was just before break. They're not big crowds, but I want to push people to come to our band offerings. Mr. Brandon Monroe is just doing an amazing job. I see the program growing. I am very proud. He is a Windsor alum. Additionally, he is an alum of Hampton University, where our board rep will be attending. So again, the talent. He was a band student at Windsor High, and he went off to Hampton University, and he is a music extraordinaire. And I think what he's doing with our band, if you've been to a football game and heard them perform at halftime, it rivals anything you could hear. And I told him I'm just so proud, and the work that students are doing in our band programs, it's amazing. And Windsor is just, I'm looking forward to them going off. Ms. Taylor, have a good time. They asked me, was I going to chaperone? I said, heck no. So, I'm looking forward to them, the choirs and our instrumental students winning awards, because that's what we do in Windsor. We win awards, and we bring the trophies home, and so I'm expecting nothing less. But I wanted to give a special shout out to the work that's being done by Mr. Brandon Monroe, Windsor alum, who's back home, Hampton University alum, where our board rep is going. So where also Dr. Tracy White went to undergrad, so we're getting a little highway back and forth there to Hampton U, right, home by the sea. Yes. So I'm very proud of that. And that is it. Oh, my next coffee talk will be, is planned for tomorrow. How did I not know that? No, just kidding. Tomorrow, Wednesday, April 19th at 5:30 p.m. in the LP Wilson Auditorium. You may RSVP on the district website. And Mr. President, you want me to just go ahead and call up folks for the next issues? Or?
Let's see if there's any questions about what Dr. Hill's report at this point. Seeing none, then sure. Okay.
So at this time, I'm going to call for Dr. Noha Hady, our Acting Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services, to give us a presentation on the academic performance of our students. It's an update as requested by the board.
All right, good evening, everyone. Ms. Bonnie Feynman will be joining me. I will be reporting out on our district assessment, iReady, and Ms. Bonnie Feynman will be reporting on our PSAT and our SAT scores at Windsor High School. I did receive some questions. I don't know if you all have copies of the questions, but I will try, I will try to address questions as I go. I'll, if they fit nicely with where I am, I will be addressing questions as I go. Next. Next. All right. So this slide right here, this is our district math performance. We take the iReady diagnostic 3 times a year at the beginning of the year, which is our fall diagnostic, and then we do another diagnostic in the winter, which is kind of like mid-January, and then we do an end-of-year diagnostic in the spring. iReady is given to all students in grades K through 8. And that, like I said, that is our district performance assessment that we use to see how our students are doing, how they're performing towards end-of-year expectation. One of the questions that was provided talks about explaining how iReady is measured in terms of performance. So we have 3 bands, as you can see on the screen. Our green are our students that are at or above grade level. So what does that mean? Every year, every grade level is expected to master a certain number of standards in math and ELA. So a student in the green means that that student has either, it combines beginning, mid, or end of year. So students are either at or above grade level. So I might be in the green in the winter, meaning that I know everything I'm supposed to know by the middle of the year, or I know everything I'm supposed to know by the end of the year. It's all combined in one band, which is green, that is at or above grade level. Now, teachers have the ability to dig in deeper to really see where students are. Because when you look at a student report, it tells you if the student is beginning of the year, mid-year, or end of year level. So if I'm in 5th grade and it's the middle of the year, and my score comes up as end of year, that means I have mastered everything I'm supposed to master by the end of the year, but I already mastered it in the middle of the year. And that's how we get our students that receive enrichment. So if it's still middle of the year and I have already mastered everything I'm expected to master, then that is a student that would receive enrichment so that we can keep pushing students forward. So that is how the green band is calculated. Yellow is students who are 1 grade level below. So if they are in 2nd grade and they are in the yellow, that means they are at a 1st grade level. So that is your yellow. Red is all students who are 2 or more grade level below of where they are expected to be at this point in the year. If you look at our data, this is our math data. In the fall, as a district, we were at 16% in the green, so students at or above grade level. In the winter, we went up to 36%. So that's a 20% increase in students who are at or above grade level. Looking at the yellow, we were able to decrease our students in the yellow by 5%, and that means that that 5% went up to the green. Same thing with red. We were able to decrease that number by 14% from fall to winter. All right, next. Our next slide shows our math performance by grade level in the winter. So that was another question, and I did reflect that on the new slide. So your copy of the slide might look a little different from this one, but this is our winter data. So this is our latest data on our students K through 8. Again, by grade level, the band do not change. So from green to yellow to red, it's the same what I just explained. So at or above grade level, 1 year below grade level is yellow, and 2 or more years below grade level is red. So you can see how each grade level as a district is performing in math.
This is the winter eval? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yes, this is the winter data, so this is our latest data.
All right, you put it up there, right.
All right, next. This next slide is our reading data. So again, K-8. Looking at our student performance from the fall to the winter, we had 28% in the fall at or above grade level. In the winter, it went up to 46%. So we had an 18% increase in students who are at or above grade level. In the yellow, we were able to decrease that number of students by 7%. And in the red, we were able to decrease it by 10%. Bands are still the same classification as far as benchmarks. All right. Looking at the next slide, again, this is the ELA performance by grade level in the winter. So our latest data points for our students in K through 8. And as you can see, our numbers in the green, students who are at or above in the yellow and in the red. One of the questions that goes nicely with this slide right here is that Mr. Panis states that scores go down. It seems like from his observations that the scores are going down as kids move up levels. So as you look at grades going from kindergarten to 8th grade, it looks like the students' performance is lower as they go up in level. So that observation is correct in some instances, not all. But, and this is something that I just want to bring to everybody's attention and our viewing audience at home. This is really not just a Windsor issue. This is a national issue. So when students go from grade to grade, starting in kindergarten, going up to 8th grade and high school, the complexity of the material and the standards get more complex and higher, right? So we all know that. So that's one factor. Also, the workload as you get from grade to grade increases. So that's another factor. We all know with our, population, not just our student population, but with the age, as students get into, the teens and get into, third, fourth, fifth, and then into middle school, the level of engagement, we see an increase in the level of engagement. So that's another factor. So all of these are factor, and then the social pressure. So it's no longer cool to be smart. So students, don't want to be labeled as smart. They don't want to be labeled as overachievers. So all of this is not, like I said, this is not just Windsor. This is research. This is what research have shown, that this is, it is a phenomena that all school districts are seeing, that sometimes as you go up grade level, student performance decreases, and it is because of all of these issues. So some students might exhibit some and not others. So, some students might exhibit the lack of engagement. And this is where us as educators, as a school district, we try to do everything to make sure that students are engaged in what we teach and they're not just sitting there compliant. So that's one of our professional development area that we really try to work on. How do we get kids to be engaged in what we're teaching? How can we make what we're teaching relevant so students are engaged and they're not just sitting there getting bored, and then as they get older, they don't care anymore, they're not, paying attention, things are getting harder, so that their performance goes down. So that is one of the questions that was posed. All right, next slide. So before I pass it on to Ms. Feynman, one of the questions asked about overall in general, why is Windsor performing at a lower level compared to the state average and nationally? So first of all, I just want to, and Ms. Bonnie's going to go over the data, we're not way, way below state average or way, way below our national average. So I think that is something that we really need to make sure we highlight. Yes, we are a little below the state average, but we have, we've made a lot of growth, and I think that is worth mentioning here. Again, when you look at national data and when you look at research, there are factors that, tell us or help us understand why a district like Windsor might be performing a little lower than the state average or the national average. So, and again, from research, socioeconomic status, the teacher quality, the quality of curriculum and instruction, student demographics in terms of ELL students and special ed students, and the funding and resources. So these are 5 national research-based factors that could have an impact on why Windsor is not performing at state level or above. Some of these factors do not apply to us. So, funding and resources, we are not short in resources. We can definitely do more with more money, always, but that is not one thing that I would say as a district we're really lacking, and that's why, we're not able to support our students or we're not able to provide resources. But there are other factors that combined together play a huge role. And the 2 factors that we're really, as a district, I feel like we have the most control over is our teacher quality and curriculum and instruction. And later on, there are other questions about that I will just address towards the end of the slide. So I'll pass it over to Ms. Feynman.
Hi. I'm going to take us through the slides that are related, the data that's related to the PSAT and the SAT, which is, I think, familiar to many of you and many people at home, because it's a test that we not only give as a school day state mandated test in 11th grade, but I think most folks would recognize it as a test for college that students take that measures readiness in a sense for college. And as you know, colleges look at that test. But let's start with the PSAT data. We give the PSAT data. We give the PSAT to our students sort of in preparation for the SAT and to give us longitudinal data about how they're doing. Just as a refresher, I know that we did report out on this data. I don't remember if it was earlier this year or last year, and just kind of clarifying the ERW score is maybe what most people would know as the verbal, like back in my day. That's the verbal score related to reading. And then the math score is the math score. What you'll also notice, is we have talked about before, is that the benchmark for math is actually higher than the benchmark for the ERW. I explained it probably about a year ago, but just quick refresher. That is because the College Board looks at how students who are freshmen in college, how they are performing in their composition class, let's say, for the verbal side, and a freshman year mathematics class, and kind of go backwards and say what was the score that they needed on the SAT in order to be successful in these classes as a college student. What they have found is that the benchmark for math is higher. So for students to get, let's say, a B in a math course in college, required that, if you draw back, that their score on the SAT was higher than the score they needed on the verbal side to get a B in a class related to literacy. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to go from the bottom of the slide up. This is this fall. We give it in the fall, in October. This year, our 10th graders, the mean score was an 869. And then you can see broken down, it actually was equal in the ERW and the math in terms of a 434 and a 434. But if you look underneath, again, it reflects, so 51% of our 10th graders met or exceeded the benchmark. 26 met or exceeded the benchmark in math. Even though the numbers are the same, the benchmark is higher in math. So that's why you see a difference there. Our 11th graders, and this is what we should see. We should see the scores going up because the test becomes a little harder for them, and now they've had a whole year of schooling. Our 11th graders this year, the mean score was an 898, and then you can see the breakdown of the ERW score as a 452 and the math score as a 446. Next slide, please. Oh, thanks. And this shows, just sort of in a different view, some of the information that I just gave. It's showing you in a bar graph. Again, our 10th graders. What it also tells you also on this one is the percentage of students that met the benchmarks on both of them, which obviously would be important as we're looking at college entrance or college readiness. We had 23% of our 10th graders. I know the state averages were brought up. The state average is 30%, and that's on both. And that's on both of the ERW and the math. Next slide, please. Just want to make sure my slides are, yep. Again, this same view, a different view, same numbers around our 11th graders with the PSAT. We had, went over the percentages already, meeting both. The 11th graders were at 18% for us, and the state at 30%. Now, as we move to the next slides, what I want to focus on is that 11th grade cohort. They take the PSAT in October, and then the same cohort takes the school day SAT in the spring, which they just took. And I want to point out the growth that we saw in that. That would be important. We would want to see them growing throughout the year so that we should see improvement from the fall, obviously, until the spring when they take the test.
I think I see some confusion. This slide is not included in your packet because we just received our scores last week. So this just literally got added because we received our school's SAT scores.
Okay, and I'm looking at my screen, which is the same screen that's behind my head, so I'm trying to. Okay, so, and please ask questions if you have any. So this was our school day SAT. So this was that same cohort of students that took it in the fall. They take it again, SAT in the spring, and we ended up with 22% meeting both, and you can see 45% met or exceeded the ERW benchmark, and 25% met or exceeded the benchmark for math. Next slide, please. But what we did see was growth in the mean score. So the mean score went up to a 937. So we should see that. I mean, obviously, we want to strive for more. And the state mean score on the school day SAT was a 979, which was actually a little bit below where it was last year. So as a state, we went down slightly. But you can see the breakdown again of our students for our 11th graders and how they did. Another little data point that I have written down that's not in the slides, just in case you wanted to know, I look at cohort data. So I'm looking at the same group of students. How did they do last year compared to this year? So the 11th graders this year, how did they do as 10th graders when they took the PSAT? We actually had when our current 11th grade cohort took the PSAT last year as 10th graders, they had an 867. This year they had a 943, so they actually had quite a large increase, so an 867 to a 943, and they went up 38 points both in math and in the ERW. So we saw some nice growth with that particular cohort. It's tricky when you're looking at, you really need to look at the same cohort longitudinally to see the growth, because there are differences among cohorts for lots of reasons, like Dr. Haiti mentioned and other things. Our 10th grade cohort that we have right now, they increased 25 points from the time they took the PSAT as 9th graders to the time they took it as 10th graders. So that's data that is really important to us to make sure that we're seeing the growth that we should see over time with the same group of students. So let me just address a couple of the questions. So I'm just addressing that idea of the cohort data. I know there were some questions about if we look at last year's 11th graders versus this year's 11th graders, it looks like there was a small dip. True. And if we look at cohort data, we do know that our 11th grade cohort increased by over 70 points from when they took the PSAT last year to this year. So as a group, they've shown some nice growth. I didn't see any other questions, I think, particular to the SAT or PSAT portion, but I will address some of the additional questions that we received under the an upcoming slide under strengths for ELA.
All right, so what's working for us in math? Double-digit gains in green, and one of the question was, why is double-digit gains? Why are we so happy about that? Well, we always want double-digit gains, right? More than 10% gains, that's statistically significant. So we are looking to move, if we're able from one administration to the next to move at least 10% in the green, we consider that great growth. Data talks, so one of the questions was to elaborate more on the process. So data talks is a new process that we instituted in Windsor starting this year in both STEM and humanities, or math and reading. And what we do is it's a system of support and accountability for the teachers and for our students. So basically, in a nutshell, we meet with teachers on a regular basis. It's, a little bit maybe every 5 to 6 weeks, depending on scheduling. We sit down with every teacher, so teachers are allowed to choose an accountability partner, kind of to help support the process and hold each other accountable. We sit with pairs or 3 teachers at a time, myself or Bonnie and the school principal and our instructional coaches. We have teachers go over their data, explain, how their data looks, what surprises them, what their plan of action is, and after every meeting, before teachers leave, they commit to trying a strategy that maybe they've never tried before, or something that they are doing, but they just want to, make it better. And then from the time that we meet, from the data talk to our next data talk, our instructional coaches as well as ourselves, we go into classrooms, we observe teachers, and we give feedback on the strategy or the commitment that they have made. We give them feedback on it. How is it working? Is it, what else can you do? Can you do it in a different way? Is it working for you or not? And then we come back to the next data talk. We reflect on what happened the past 5-6 weeks. We look at new data points, and then we see where do we need to go from there. So the whole idea behind the data talks, like I said, it's accountability for the teachers, and it's also making sure that our students, every single student, is really getting what they need. So when we sit down and look at student data, we look at student level data. We don't look at 25% of the entire grade level did this. No, we look at every single student in their class load, and we look at where they are and what they need in order to move. And we really feel like the gains that we've made from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year has a lot to do with the data talks. One of the significant gains, I would say, that came out of data talks is it pushed teachers to be reflective. At the beginning of the year, we had some pushback from teachers about, the stress of the data talks, sitting in front of your, director, your principal, and, looking at your data in front of another teacher. So we had some pushback. However, now almost past halfway through the year, the feedback that we're getting from teachers is that it really made them reflect over what they're doing, and it made them plan with a purpose. So now we're not just planning to just do whatever, we're planning and we have a purpose in mind. We know exactly where our kids are, we know our data. So that helped create a data culture that we did not necessarily have before with all our teachers. So that is what data talks are. Number Corner in K2, again, one of the question was to elaborate more. Number Corner is a fact fluency or foundational skill program for students in grades K through 2. We piloted that program last year in a couple of classrooms, and we have seen a significant difference with the students that were in the pilot classrooms this year in comparison to students that were not in a pilot classroom. So what the program does is students are exposed to different foundational math skills all year long. So, in our curriculum, we have, for example, Unit 1, students are exposed to adding within 5. And then we move on to Unit 2, is something else. But we never go back and spiral through Unit 1 and 2 and 3, just because of the time and because of how much our curriculum demands are. Number Corner, what it does is it makes all the foundational skills spiral all year long through daily activities like calendar, for example. When students, go through the calendar every day, it links what they're learning in the class in terms of in their grade level, it links it to daily activities like morning meetings, calendar, counting money, all of these skills that students used to not see or be exposed to until different points in the year, maybe at the end of the year or, in a different grade level. What Number Corner does, it exposes students K1 and 2 all year long to all the foundational skills that research have shown that when students are able to have a strong number sense and a strong foundational skill, they are much more successful as they go on leaving second grade into the next grade level. So now we use Number Corner at all in all our classes K through 2. 90% of our students moved in math, and I think that is significant because, I think mastery is great, and we do look for proficiency. We want all our kids to be at grade level, right? That is our, ultimate goal. However, I think, we need to look at growth. So the fact that 90% of our students in Windsor have made growth this year from beginning to middle of the year, that is significant. We have not seen that kind of numbers in previous years, which tells us we're definitely going in the right direction. We have a lot of work to do, but I think that is a bright spot that, can keep us, looking at the bright side of things. The average gross of students receiving intervention was 39 points. One of the questions was, in mass intervention produced a 0.5 to 0.75 year gain of gross. Please explain the interventions. Is that for SPED or for which students? So interventions is not just for SPED students. Intervention is for any of our students who are below grade level. So we have Tier 2 intervention, we have Tier 3 intervention. Again, Tier 2 is students who are maybe 1 year below grade level. Tier 3 is students who are 2 or more years below grade level. We have interventionists, we have tutors that do pullouts, so they work with students. We have an intervention program called Bridges in Math, and our interventionist and tutor use that program to support students alongside the classroom teacher. So the classroom teacher does Tier 1 instruction. They differentiate Tier 1 instruction, and then if students are in need of additional support and interventions, they get pulled out for intervention. And what we've seen is that on average, students that have received intervention have made at least between a 0.5 to a 0.75 year of growth during that time from beginning to middle of the year. District vertical alignment PD, that is one of our focus area this year, is working with all teachers. We had recently a professional development where we brought together all our teachers from kindergarten to 12th grade that teaches math to work on vertical alignment and get our teachers to understand how every single building block, even if it's kindergarten, first or second grade, has a major impact on our student performance in high school. So we're doing a lot of work with vertical alignment with our teachers. They walk through data and flexible grouping. One of the questions was in regards to this item. What is walkthrough data, flexible grouping, and what is meant by flexible grouping? So our walkthrough data, we do have a district-wide system a system where we collect data for walkthroughs. So we have a form that all our administrators, our instructional coaches, and our central office administrators use when we go around in buildings to observe teachers. We have the same form. That forms pulls in all the data in one kind of nice dashboard, so we're able to analyze our data district-wide, find trends, find what's not working as a district and what's working as a district. One of the things that we recognized from last year is that our grouping, and what is flexible grouping? This is basically the structure in the classroom where teachers are pulling small groups to address specific student needs. The idea of a flexible grouping is that students, as you work with your teacher, you might learn something that you did not know before, so you no longer need to be in that group. So then you move to a different group. You do something else that you need. So that is the idea of flexible grouping. From the walkthrough data, that was an area of need. We really focused on it. Our instructional coaches have been supporting teachers. And as a result, when we look at our walkthrough data now, we do see an increase in teachers using flexible small groups. Thanks.
So we planned this. I think we choreographed this perfectly because my first one is is exactly the same thing as Dr. Haiti talked about. On our side, with our team, we're also continuing to be committed to the walkthroughs that we do. As a district, just so you know, I just looked at our data. We're almost at 3,000 classroom visits as a team, administrative team this year, and our coaches. It means that we've been in as individuals or groups in almost 3,000 classrooms throughout the year. And we too are identifying trends, and as Dr. Haiti has mentioned on the STEM side or the math side, our trends are very similar. So we also noticed a need to really strengthen and improve the frequency of small group instruction, and that's been the bulk of our work, especially through the partnership with the data talks. So the walkthrough data plus the data talks are allowing us to work with teachers really closely around how to put the groups together, what data are you using, and what instructional practices are happening during that time. As Dr. Haiti also mentioned, we've had double-digit growth in all grade levels. I think she did a phenomenal job explaining why that's important. On ours too, I thought what was pretty fantastic this year is our kindergartners. We have 0% in the red. First grade, 1% in the red. And even some of our higher grades, like grade 4, we have 15% in the red, and these numbers are pretty low. The 0-1% are very low in that urgent intervention category where we have students 2 or more grade levels below. And for 4th grade, having 15% in the red is actually very good for this time of year. So like Dr. Haiti said, I think we're trending in the right direction. And if you look back at our data, I think our kindergarten and 3rd grade data is extremely strong for us. We haven't seen this kind of data at the mid-year point. For example, we have 61% of our 3rd graders already at or above the benchmark, which is really, really great for us. I did get a question around why are we seeing that dip? As you look at the data, we are seeing some dips as we go 3rd grade and higher. We're starting to see some trends that we think might be attributed to our curriculum, so we're going to be working on our curriculum this summer, so get ready for that. And we're particularly going to be working on our elementary levels, but also 7th grade. So when we've been seeing trends that have kind of gone on through time, to me and to our team, that signals that we need to look at the core of it, which is the curriculum, and to really take a look if we are doing everything we can with that. We have also launched our first data talks. I have some second round data talks coming up in other buildings. Tomorrow I have data talks at Pequannock. So we're following the same model that Dr. Haiti launched with her group, and it's going very, very well. Again, it usually involves teacher teams. I'm there, and the principal is usually there if they can be. There's a lot of stuff going on, and our instructional coaches. Teachers present their data, and we do some collective problem solving around some strategies that we might want to start employing in the classroom, and then the coach is right there to then follow up on the support. We are designing a new curriculum template, which you will see in the fall. It's fantastic. That's because I made it, so obviously it's going to be super awesome. No, we're really excited about it because I think the value of it is that it's going to allow teachers to take the curriculum and easily transform it into lesson plans. Because a curriculum is not lesson plans. Teachers still have to take a curriculum and sort of translate it, transform it, and turn it into what they're doing daily. The new model, what we're hoping is accessibility is higher, clarity is higher, the alignment is better. These are things that teachers have told us they could really use. So we redesigned the template. We've been piloting some of it, running some of our current curricula through it to see if it'll work. It seems to be going great. And so we think that's really going to help to strengthen some of the grade levels where we're seeing some need to improve. We're really leveraging our reading teachers. So just to clarify for those folks watching at home and for the board, we have classroom teachers that are humanities teachers that teach ELA and social studies, and then we have an actual group, we have a cohort of reading certified teachers. It's a different certification. It's a 102 certification. So that's different than a typical classroom certification. We have a department of over a dozen of those people throughout the district, and we have some very strong people that we've recruited, professionals that we've recruited and thankfully retained in those jobs. And now we're having some of them lead the professional development so that we can really leverage their expertise. Along with that, we started to have consultation around adolescent reading, which there was a question about that. I would categorize that as reading instruction that's happening at our middle school and high school. So that's reading instruction for teenagers, grades 6 through 12, which is kind of a specialty area in and of itself. Lots of different considerations. When you have teenagers or adolescents who are reading below grade level, it's extremely difficult to get them to make gains because once you get to that point, a lot of the synapses and things have already been connected or have remained disconnected, and it's a lot of work. So it's a very special area. We're partnering with Dr. Shannon Kelly, who was at UConn, is now at Salisbury University in Maryland, and that's her entire specialty is around adolescent reading instruction. So she works with our reading teachers, again, the specialists who are the experts in how to teach reading. And she's running professional development and also visiting classrooms to provide feedback. And we're hoping to have her again next year. Also a strength, we've taken our reading teachers at the high school, and in a number of classes, they're actually pushing into classes to help students with their reading in the classes instead of pulling the students out in a separate setting. So we have reading teachers paired with English certified teachers at the high school who are co-planning and co-teaching in college level classes where we tend to have a larger group of struggling readers. It's pretty awesome. They're very, very cohesive, this group. And if you go in there, what you see are the reading teachers pushing right in and helping individual students in the classroom that are struggling with the novels and the content that is in the classroom rather than doing disconnected things in a separate room. I think all of them, except two out of the three of them are also certified in 7 through 12. So they're duly certified. It's been a pretty awesome partnership. And then there was a question about this. We did have a goal through our budget requests and just our own vision as a department to make sure that we were offering a diverse array of texts in all of our buildings. We are seeing evidence of that as we go in. So, and we've had outside people who have come as visitors for different reasons, either as interns or visiting to do get hours for preparing to be administrators and things like that, who have noted to us, obviously anecdotally, but have said, wow, I don't think I've seen classrooms with such a wide array of texts. The question that I received before the meeting tonight was, what exactly does that mean? I think first and foremost, our goal was to have text with racial diversity to reflect our population of students, and that was something that we spent a lot of time in building relationships with vendors who specialize in that. So there are vendors that we have contracts with that or have relationships with where they help us to cultivate collections for our children in all of the different grades. So I think racial diversity, but also seeing books of different genres. So you'll see picture books, you'll see graphic novels, nonfiction, historical fiction, the classics. I mean, you see the whole gamut, and we want students to be able to essentially have a library in the classroom to help build their motivation. There was a secondary question about, does this strengthen English performance or ELA performance? It's very hard to draw to say that having diverse text causes an increase in performance, but there definitely is research to say it encourages students to read more when they find books that reflect themselves. Or that they have an interest in, just like adults. We don't go to the bookstore and pick books that we're not interested in. We just walk past them and we look for the ones that are in the areas that we find, interesting. Same with kids, even more so with kids. So the more we can provide an extensive array of books, the higher the likelihood they'll be motivated to read. They'll read more, and essentially that, we can cash that in eventually to help them read better. But especially as we get to our adolescent readers, it's absolutely critical that we have books that they want to read in the classrooms. So I'm trying to answer that. We have a whole collection, different difficulties, many different genres, many different narrative styles, and representing many different kinds of people, just like our district represents many different kinds of people.
So our strategies for improvement and our next steps. Tier 1 instruction, basically, and I will address two of the questions, but this is nothing new. So the question was, what is different about these strategies that will result in improvements, and are we using all of these strategies now? So the answer to the question is yes. So we are doing all of this. And I will speak from personal experience. So I was a turnaround principal. So I was able to turn around 2 different schools from the bottom 5% in the state to the top 25% in the state. And that did not happen because I did anything different from any of this. So research, practical experience, everything shows that what turns around a school or what gets a school or a district to move from good to great is what we know works, which is professional development, making sure we're building our teacher capacity, making sure we're providing our teachers and our students with, a well-developed, aligned curriculum to the standards, making sure that we're providing feedback. So this is nothing new, and I don't think we can really say we can do anything different because that's what works. What we have to look at is why has it not been working for us so far? And that's exactly what we're trying to do right here. So we know teachers need professional development in order to deliver high quality instruction for our students. We've been getting professional development. It hasn't yet aligned perfectly, but it is getting there because we're seeing growth in our student performance. However, we still need to make it better. We still need to make it align perfectly with what every single teacher needs in order to provide every single student with what they need. So that is, something that we're going to keep working on, professional development. Instructional coaching. Instructional coaching is, again, a research-based, evidence-supported strategy where if we're providing our teachers with embedded coaching, and that's exactly what our instructional coaches are doing, where they are in the classroom alongside our teachers, providing the instant feedback. If we're doing it and teachers are receiving it and are implementing that feedback with fidelity, then we're going to see the movement that we need to see. Curriculum revision and curriculum alignment. The second question was, under curriculum revision and alignment, wouldn't frequent revisions cause confusion? Why are they needed more than once every several years? So curriculum revisions does not cause confusion because we're not changing a curriculum per se. We're not changing the standards. The standards are the same. What we do when we revise a curriculum, we look at our student data. So everything here is driven by data. So we look at what we've taught so far and the way we've taught it and the strategies that are embedded in our curriculum. Is it working for us and for our kids? And if it's not, which our data will tell us that it is or it's not, then if it's not, that's when we go back over the summer and we look at where in our curriculum we see these gaps. Because if most of our students are lacking a certain skill, that is not an issue as a student or a teacher. That is definitely a curriculum issue. But when we see a classroom of students lacking a skill and not all other classrooms, then that is a teacher issue. And then if we just see a few students, then that's a student issue. So that's why we really want to develop that data culture, because if we're very, if everything we do is driven by our student data, that will lead us to where we really want to go. Again, data culture, we're going to continue to do our data talks. That is definitely something that we're going to do next year. Our PLC structures, which is our professional learning communities where our teachers get together, we're going to create a better structure for our PLCs to make sure that teachers are using that time to really look at the data and then come up with strategies that really align to what we're seeing in our data. We're going to continue to do our walkthroughs with specific actions. So again, all of this is not new. It's just the intentionality behind what we're doing and how we're following up on it and how we're holding people accountable. And at the beginning of the presentation, I said that the only two factors that we really as a district have control over is what we provide our teachers. So our curriculum and building our teachers' capacity. That's really when you think about it, because these are the two things that we can control or we can change. And that's where all of these next steps are coming from. We're gonna provide support, we're gonna provide training, we're gonna be alongside our teachers, we're gonna, look at data, but at the same time, we're gonna hold everyone accountable at all levels to make sure that, we're moving all our students forward. And the last bucket of work is our school-home connection. So we do realize how important it is to have our parents on our side, right? We've heard our parents' feedback in the previous coffee talk about, not able to, so we don't have textbooks in a lot of our grades, right? Because we write our own curriculum, we develop our own resources, so we don't necessarily have a textbook that goes home. So we realize how important it is for parents to have something tangible if they choose to help their kids at home. So we're working on different things. We're creating videos where we're gonna post all of our videos online. So if a parent wanna help their kid at home, they have access to an instructional strategy that is being used at school that parents can help at home. So we're really gonna look at our communication with families, how we're communicating academic expectations, and how we're supporting our families so that they can support their kids at home. And that is the end. Any questions?
Thank you so much. So I'll look to my left and right to see who wants to jump in first. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you, you both and your team and everyone, the stakeholders, because what people don't know is other than the deck, you were in real time answering questions that you were given on the spot, not by me. And
By who?
We don't know. Unknown person.
who knows?
Who knows? Could be.
I apologize that that happened to you. I apologize that that happened to you, but thank you for flexing your expertise, education, and sheer girl power, because I can't believe you did that, because you didn't have to do it, but you did. Thank you. Kudos to what has been able to happen in such a short time, after a pandemic, during a pandemic, sitting in your acting role, sitting in, 3,000 classrooms or whatever the situation was. You're being able to show us in real time what's happening, adding slides that happened a few weeks ago. You're really doing the work, and our kiddos are benefiting from the amazing work that you're doing, that the staff is doing to move us forward. Again, I'm a parent. So I know what it's like to wonder, hey, what's going to happen? Textbooks. I used to have a textbook, you know. What's that all about? We're not wrapping textbooks anymore. I understand, oh, wow, there's no homework policy, but our students are learning, and this is proof of it. I don't have any questions because I feel like you answered enough questions, but I will say I wrote down tons of words like amazing, awesome, makes sense to me, great gains, wow. I love that we are bringing in experts into the space. Dr. Hill, thank you and your team for bringing in experts who can, I mean, the fact that we're bringing people in to really thought partner on it and not saying we have all the answers, but let's just bring in somebody that can maybe put in, a second or third pair of eyes on it. I think this is necessary. I think we're going to see even more gains future forward because we're putting the process in place with the keyword intentionality. This has been going on for years, but I think what we're doing now, it just goes to show in such a short amount of time the gains when you're doing something with accountability and intentionality. So I have no questions besides saying kudos to you and the team. This is amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions over here?
I'll comment. I'll comment, yes.
Okay,
I think
Mr.
you may have a
Panis.
few questions. I'm glad that, I have much higher expectations of you and your ability to answer questions than others up here, and I thank you very much for taking on that role. I'd like to, so the expectation of the green, just going back to the green, is that we went from, 28 to 46 in the fall to winter. We're going to take another one, and you expect perhaps that 46 will go to 56 or 66 or something like that. Is that the idea?
Mm-hmm.
And the yellow is going to shrink much more. Okay.
Well, the
Yeah.
yellow might not shrink because if we move our kids from the red to the yellow, then that's a great, because red is 2 or more grade level below. So just realistically speaking, the chances are we would like to move kids more than 2 grade levels every year, but that's not the norm. But so you might see the yellow go up. As long as the red goes down, that's really what we're looking for, the movement from tier to tier.
Right, I see that, yes, the red moves. All right, yes. Well, the yellow did shrink a little as the green goes, but I like your explanation of this iReady. I think the star was a bit different on this. I don't know. In other words, the green represents the end of the year. In other words, the students who are in the green are already they have mastery of that year. That's the way you explained it. That's correct?
So not all of them. So some of them might have, if they are end of year, then they have already mastered that year. If they are beginning of the year, then they are at grade level, where they need to be at the beginning of the year.
Oh, okay.
So the green.
So that's the green. The cross-hatched are at end of.
Yes.
Is that right? Where you have the hash mark and
Yes,
the
so
green.
the expectation is if it's mid-year and I am in the green at mid-year, expectation is that I will finish off the year in green, meaning I have learned everything I'm supposed to learn this year. I'm at grade level.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not that they know the whole year.
Not necessarily.
No. Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, let's see, it popped out of my head here. Let's see. About the group that you hold with, let's say accountability. And as you mentioned, the curriculum and the PD of some of the, and all the actors here. But what do you do to hold the student accountable? I mean, is that, I didn't hear you say that. Do you intend to?
I'm going to answer that.
What?
I'm going to answer that.
He's going to answer that.
Oh,
Dr. Hill's going to answer that. So students are held accountable. So this was a presentation on an update on student performance. So I want to be clear, right, when she talked about the staff, because they're the ones delivering. That's the professional delivering. Students are held accountable in their homework, in their classwork, when they take tests. They do reports. They do projects. That's how students are held accountable. And something that wasn't said, so I was going to wait till you guys were done, but you precipitated it with your question. When I talked about in the budget getting rid of certain software and programs, because we had all these one-offs, whereas 5 people might have been doing this, teachers I'm talking about, and I said during the budget meetings, if you remember, some staff are not going to be happy with me. I'm okay with that. When you're going to turn stuff around, people aren't going to be happy. Being held accountable means you're being held accountable for doing your job. There are very specific things that every teacher has to do per his or her certification, per the classes that they teach, based on the curriculum that's out there. This is not about the student. The student is being held accountable. So I want to be clear, we're not going to keep redirecting back to students. This is, when she talked, she's talking about our adults, the people we're paying to teach our kids. That's not a negative. That's what professionals do. And getting rid of all the excess stuff. The other thing that Dr. Hill's not doing, we're not bringing in a bunch of new programs. So they wouldn't say it, but I would say it. The difference being, and why we start to see progress, Mr. Panos, with this, is because we're being really focused and intentional, and we're, with fidelity, implementing the things that we have. The problem with too many school districts, and Windsor's been one, they add something new every year. It's like the flavor of the year. If you're going to turn stuff around, you cut off the fat, you get rid of the chaff, the dross, whatever example resonates with you. You focus on what really matters and what's important. And that's what we're doing. We both, Dr. Haiti and I, have experience doing turnaround work in turnaround schools. It works everywhere. That's why I mentioned in the budget, when we were talking about software and programs particularly, I kept saying, I know staff are not going to be happy, because I'm going to keep cutting these things, because over the years, it's not 1 year, 2 years, people have gotten comfortable with saying, oh, if I had that, I could do this. No, teaching is really simple. It hasn't changed for thousands of years. There are some things that are basic. Yes, we have some new technology, some different strategies, so to speak, but here's the curriculum. As Ms. Feynman said, we're going to help staff develop lesson plans so they can deliver that curriculum to their students, and they're to instruct their students based on the professional development that they receive and the training. And we brought in experts so folks can't say, I don't know if that person knew what they were talking about. So students are accountable every day. We can't keep going back to students for everything. We have adults. We're paying them. They're professionals. They're licensed. They're going to do their jobs, and that's not a negative. And I'm not adding any new things while I'm here. So we're going to keep focusing on the same things. I know there are people, because I know my profession for 31 years, they're just waiting, oh, there'll be a new thing. Not with Dr. Hill. No, there won't. It's going to be the same thing next year, or whenever you tell me it ain't my year. But I'm going to do the same thing because I have the experience, Dr. Haiti has the experience of turning around schools, and this is how it's done. We are well-resourced, as she said. You guys take care of your schools. You give up the money. So there's no argument there. Windsor has what it needs to perform. Now it's time to perform better. Once you get rid of the other reasons nationally, what is it? It's what leaders and teachers, it's us, the adults. It's our fault. We need to be intentional and focused and have fidelity as to what we're doing. Then, working with the families, we can then encompass, a much better net, I think, for students from my experience. I don't believe that we've done that very well in Windsor. I think we've been a little loose. We've done a lot of conversation, but we have not been focused, intentional, and we have not worked with fidelity. I know folks will be offended hearing that. That's okay, because you see the progress, and people are okay once they start seeing progress. Nobody likes practice, but everybody likes winning.
Mr. Lockhart, then Ms.
And
Cantor.
mine will be real simple. So what you're saying is you're going to utilize what you have and just fine tune it to meet the needs, to keep
Absolutely.
moving forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's how I'm able to keep cutting the budget when they naturally go up, right?
Right.
We keep so we cut the things that we don't need. And like I said, there'll be a few, most of our staff are fine. They have moved, they understand what we're trying to do, they are working hard, So, you know, I don't make decisions for a few people,
That's what I do at home.
and it works, right?
It sure does.
Mr. Lockhart.
So, all of us, I believe, have the ability to ask questions at a moment's notice, and we definitely care about asking questions and make sure we ask the right questions. I want to be very clear about that. Don't care what side of the aisle we're on. It was my understanding we asked for this presentation early, before people went on break, and that we would have time to give questions and share questions with everybody. So the only thing I'm asking in the future is, there's a lot of questions that were asked, and it would have been great for all of us to be able to participate in those questions. So I think I was able to follow. All I'm asking is that everyone up there has a right to ask questions. I just think that all of us should see those questions at the same time so that we can actually follow through. Because I think, that, Mr. Panels, you're the only one that submitted those questions, which I have zero problem with. What the problem is that they came the day of, right here. So they're professionals. They should know their job. They should have a great command of the data, great command of the vision, everything. I get it. I just wanted to be able to see your questioning so that I could follow through. So if anything comes from this side of the aisle, you will get it. If anyone wants to submit directly to the superintendent and have it answered through his staff, that is everyone's right up here. But I just want to share, Mr. President, that I would have loved to be able to see Mr. Panos' question and be able to follow through and to actually see what his thought process was or why he was asking what he was asking. Not questioning why he's asking it, just want to follow through with the presentation.
Thank you. Other questions, Ms. Claes, and then Mr. Wollaston.
I just want to thank everybody for the presentation. It was very helpful to get this information. I think it is, to be honest, the data is difficult. I'm a parent who chases the green, so I'd be in somebody's office saying, why is my kid yellow or why is my kid red? So, but I appreciate that it's very clear why the data is what it is and what we're doing to change that. And I think that's a story that should be shared far and wide because I think we should be proud of it. I think our teachers and the administration have done an amazing job, and I'm really happy to be on a board to see this group of people do this amazing work. So from what I understand about my role, I'm told you're well-funded and you have everything you need from me. So all I guess I need to do is be a cheerleader around this, but if you need more, let us know. But, great job and keep it moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Wollaston?
So, yeah, I'll repeat what everyone I've heard say on this side of the aisle so far is just pretty much a general congrats on an amazing presentation. It was truly impressive, and you guys are just on the money, just killing it pretty much. So while I do understand that you guys say that you have everything you need, I really feel like, I'd just like to know, because I know you do submit a budget, like I would like to know how best we can invest in what you're doing. I'm sure not everything you asked for was approved because, that's just the way it goes sometimes. So I'd really like to know, even just for our understanding, just some things that you think could possibly increase this work. Not to say that we're going to include it in the budget, but it could be something that we look towards in the future. I understand that sometimes you used to do a wish list. I'm not sure if we still.
I'll clarify that, Mr. Wilson. That would be Vice President Lockhart's demand every year.
You were the wish list guy?
He the wish list man.
Oh, wish list man. Sorry.
Yeah. I know it's going to get voted down. So
but
I don't even want to send it in.
But it helps us. It does help us as board members to have that information and to even be able to speak to counselors and say, hey, this is some of the things that we would like to be able to afford to see these numbers turn around. Whether it's even, I don't know. You spoke about like interventions you had for like tier 2 and 3 students. And I would just kind of like to know, like, whether it's like, would you staffing increase or what would possibly better the interventions.
I'm not gonna let my team answer that, no, 'cause I know what I'm gonna hear.
But I just.
But I'm gonna be real. And I know, again, we're always recorded, right? That's great for posterity, so my colleagues will say something to me like, Terrell, you messed it up for us. You know, people have gotten used to public education where everybody comes and begs all the time. That's the you know, the mantra, right? People just come ask for more and more and more. I'm not saying, you know, people don't want things or whatever, but I've dealt with Windsor for 20 years. And I've been in a lot of districts, and this is 31 years in education. It's a very well-funded, well-resourced district. We should have better performance based on the level of funding and resources that we have. I am not worried about who gets upset with me in the town over that. For the resources that this town has, and I speak from experience, and most people haven't worked in all the places I've worked in. They've been in one place. So they got one view, right? And Happy Town is not all of America. So when you've been somewhere when you don't have anything, literally nothing, you buy it yourself for real, not pretend GoFundMe, for real, you buy it. You make sure your students can get the best when you have nothing, and your leaders hold you accountable to take students from zero. Dr. Haiti talked about students being 1 and 2 grades behind. I'm talking about working places where students average 3, 4, 5 grades behind. And when your leader and superintendent says, they had better move some grades before the year is over, period. There is no other discussion. There is no opportunity to back out of it. And when you don't have all those resources, it's amazing how brilliant and creative and resourceful people become when they aren't given so many things. And that's what I'm trying to push. I know we have great staff, but I will say to you, in my 20 years dealing with Windsor, I think a lot of that greatness has been covered up because we continue just to get more stuff. Well, if I had this, I could do this. If I had this, this is what you have, drive that car and get to your destination. Now, people may not like that. I understand that. But at this point, I'm the leader. I have the experience of proving I can get the results, and I have the methodology to do it. That's what we're going to do. If they want a different one, then that's you guys. You vote on that. But I'm like tired of people asking because that's become the excuse in Windsor. When I came here in 2002, excuse me, I was like, wow, I ain't never been nowhere that's this resource. Science labs that actually have the propane or gas flowing, I'm like, there's really something at the end of that tube. I didn't grow up with that. Just did not. Indoor pool and outdoor pool. Come on. And all people are going to say is, oh, we don't have enough. No, it's time to produce. You a team, if you use a sports analogy, you got the locker room, you got the training facilities, you got the good equipment, your uniform, you ain't wearing 10-year-old uniforms. It's time to win some championships. So I'm not asking for anything extra. I'm asking for what we need to do our jobs, and we have it, provided the town votes, you know, the way we would like to see them vote, and we just have to perform. I don't know what's wrong with us as professionals dealing with that level of pressure. Everyone else does in every other, you know, area of work in the world. I don't want to be the educator, and I never was for 31 years, that wanted to be in that group of people feeling sorry for me. Oh, well, you're an educator, you should just... Nah, I'm coming in here and I'm changing the world for these kids that are in front of me. That's what I expect from my leaders. That's what I expect from my teachers. And I've said it publicly many times. If that's not what you want to do, then this ain't the place for you. And why would anybody else accept anything else? I don't understand that. And I live here. So I ain't going nowhere. This is my town. You can move me from this seat, but this is my town, and you really don't want me in the government seat. Trust me, you don't want that. So there's nothing wrong with hard work. And I know you agree with me, Mr. Panos. When did people lose the idea that hard work was a bad thing?
Yeah.
I said it, the town heard it, that's where I'm standing.
Mr. Lockhart?
So I will agree. Historically, we've always asked for the 1% during the finance process. This year, Dr. Hill is very adamant about the fact that if I wanted the 1% wish list, it would be in my budget. So he was very clear that whatever I ask you for, this is what I'm going to use to move the district. It was a very transparent process where everybody was able to come before us and to express their truths to this body as a finance committee, and we asked the questions. I respect Mr. Wilson asking the question again, but Dr. Hill was very, very adamant, like, you know, this is what I need. If you give me this, I'm going to drive this, and this. And that's what we're going to hold the superintendent to. So if next year you want that mandatory 1% list, whoever's on the board at that time, and want to make it a part of the budget process, by all means, that'll be up to that board at that time. But we did discuss it. It was, you know, me and Dr. Hill, we bump heads on a lot of things. I personally don't mind spending money. If I don't mind, I'm not going to waste money. Well, I don't mind spending if it's going to drive and give us what we need. But you are the superintendent is the individual that's in charge and held accountable to the board. So we gave him what he needed. We're going to see how it gets us through the next academic year and then reassess when we get to the next budget process, if I happen to be in this seat.
Any other questions? Seeing none, again, I want to thank Dr. Haiti, Dr. Hill. I just want to ask one question about, can we get the slide that we didn't have? Can that be sent to us, the SAT slide?
The 2 slides. It was 2 slides.
Yes.
You have the link, it's the same link.
Oh, it is.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
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 And I want to clarify, it's my fault on behalf of Dr. Haiti. She told me today that we had got that new information, and I said I wanted to give you guys the most up-to-date information, so go ahead and add it in today. So that's why your stuff was off.
No problem.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Haiti and Ms. Feynman. Ms. Feynman, you still on deck? And Ms. Feynman is now going to, she's going to present on our revised 2023-2024 Windsor High School Program of Studies.
Yeah. First, I'm going to look for a motion before she speaks. Mr. Lockhart.
Move that the Board of Education approve the proposed addition of African American Studies course as an option for our 9th graders in place of early global studies to the program of study for 2023-2024 for a first reading and waiving the second reading.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Ms. Taylor. Ms. Feynman.
Okay, thanks for having me again, 2 times in a row. It's an exciting moment. Right now, I've been really hoping to bring this proposal before the board with Dr. Hill's and Dr. Haiti's approval, and here we are. Again, I'm Bonnie Feynman, Director of Arts and Humanities, and I want to introduce one of our teachers, I think probably one of our finest teachers that we have in the district, and I don't know if you've had a chance to meet her. So we're going to present and talk about this proposal tonight. So this is Deja Brabham, who is one of our high school social studies teachers. And I need a list in front of me to give you her information because it's that long that it's hard to remember it. She's a highly decorated educator, public historian and curriculum writer. She's a Fulbright scholar who studied at the Royal Holloway University of London. In addition, I mentioned she's a teacher in our high school. We're very, very lucky to get her on board with us and have her. It's like having an absolute scholar and expert right there in the classroom with us at all times. She teaches our African American Latinx course as well as civics. She's also a board member on the Connecticut Council for Social Studies, a faculty member at Southern Connecticut State University where she teaches U.S. history, and a member of the Anti-Racist Teaching and Learning Collective. She's all over the place. So she's constantly sharing with us some really fantastic things that she's doing outside of Windsor, and I think it's just an amazing representation of the educators that we have in our district. She also has 2 students whose thoughts are going to be shared. Do you mind just saying who they are?
Yes, so I have two of our really brilliant students from the African American and Latino Studies class, including Aubrey Buxton, who's grade 9, and Demila Seal, who is grade 11. And they shared their thoughts with me that they wanted to share back out to you. They said that they couldn't come because they had practice.
And it's kind of late. So here's the proposal. The proposal that we're bringing forward is that we have an option now for 9th graders moving forward next year. So this will affect incoming 9th graders and future 9th graders. Our current progression of courses in social studies are as follows. So we have early global studies is currently the required course in 9th grade, then modern global studies in 10th grade, U.S. history in 11th grade, and civics in grade 12. The proposal is that students in 9th grade can choose either early global studies or African American Latinx history, which is a full year course, and they would be receiving credit towards their social studies or history requirement for graduation and not just elective credit for that course. So currently we offer the course. I think the board is familiar with the mandate that the state of Connecticut has put forward. We offer the course and teach the course. Deja teaches the course. Under the mandate, currently the course is an elective, so students receive elective credit for it. This proposal, if approved, would mean that students who are freshmen, if they choose to take this course as their freshman year course, would get credit towards their actual social studies graduation requirements. Currently, we require 3.5 credits of social studies or history. We would also offer the course as an elective. So if a student who is not an incoming 9th grader next year and beyond wants to take the course, like let's say there's a current junior who'd like to take the course next year as an elective, we would also have a section, at least one section that would be elective courses. The way we'll do this is I'm going to sort of provide a macro view of why we're bringing the proposal forward. And Deja's here to provide sort of the micro, the day-to-day. What does this course look like right now? What does it look like? What are students studying? And I think her students have some fantastic things that they've been working on, as well as some great things to say about the course. In putting this proposal together and bringing it before Dr. Hill and Dr. Haiti, I shared some of my own personal beliefs about why I think we should do this, and I'd like to share that with the board. The first one is that our students, if they are Windsor students, they already take 2 years of global studies in middle school. So 6th grade and 7th grade, and that was curriculum that the board approved in 2021, is a 2-year global studies exploration of 8 different regions. And it does include early global studies. So students learn about ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, they're learning about China, India, et cetera. So these are, if they're students in Windsor, they are getting 2 years of global studies in the middle school. I also believe that the African American Latinx course is an excellent precursor for the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade courses in that, and Deja could get into it a little bit more if you have questions or she tells us more about the day-to-day. Students who take the course, they dabble in 3 different things, which are all the things that they're going to study subsequently, after 9th grade. You get global history if you're learning about these topics. You're getting course U.S. history, and you are getting some amount of civics, laws and regulations and things that are related to the topics within the course. If you haven't seen Deja teach, which I don't think any of you have, it's like magic. And I enjoy being in her room very, very much. It is extremely rigorous. The course is extremely rigorous. As you may know, CERC put a curriculum out for this course as a recommended sort of starting point. Although the mandate does say you can use the CERC curriculum. In addition, you can use what they call public or private resources. So it's not just the curriculum, but it is like about a 400-page curriculum, extremely intensive. Were you you helped to create that curriculum, yes? Or you were? No. Okay. Okay. And so what's nice here is that we are presenting an extremely rigorous course that embeds all of the competencies that we expect students to be able to master in social studies as 9th graders. They conduct research, they write a lot, they are going to read and sort of grapple with primary and secondary sources, and they do get essentially what is stated in the C3 frameworks. In the course, they're going to get history, civics, geography, economics, all rolled into one course. When I thought about putting the proposal forward to Dr. Hill and Dr. Haiti, I thought this could actually be a really wonderful way for students to start their experience at Windsor High and really get them prepared for the rigors of the courses that they're required to take. Again, it would be an option under this proposal. If a student or family would decide that early global is for them, they could opt to take that or this course. Again, just want to reiterate that. The course is a full year elective currently. As you know, the state's graduation requirements are a lot. They're comprehensive. It's very difficult for students to fit a full year elective course into their schedules. It's really tricky. Remember, we have students that need credits in all the core, I'll call them core subjects, plus they have humanities credits that they earn in addition, technology credits, physical education and health, the arts, right? So students who really want to take the course are sometimes, it's prohibitive because of the scheduling. This would give another option. I personally think options are always great, and students should have options in the courses that they're taking. The other thing I wanted to mention, I also mentioned to my colleagues, is that many colleges and universities at this point require for graduation that students take courses in these topics: African American history, Latinx history, different cultural studies and traditions. I even pulled the requirements from UConn for the English degree, but also multidisciplinary engineering, both of which would require students to take what they call cultural courses, and they give lists of these courses. My university I went to, I got to give a shout out, Rutgers University, number 16, public university in the country. UConn's 26th. So even just mentioning it,
Just get that in.
even when I went there was a long time ago, I was required, in order to get a Rutgers University diploma, I had to take what they called at the time 6 credits in non-Western courses. So I took Black Literature and I took a Religions of the Eastern World course. I still remember. They still have those requirements in place. So for students who are college bound, this is also not only I think should be an option, but a requirement. We're not there yet. This proposal is not for it to be a requirement, it's for it to be an option, but for most college bound students, they do need to have practice in a course like the African American Latinx course. And then finally, I think we can do something really great here as a district and set the standard for other districts. There are not a lot of other districts that are doing this. The only one that I know of right now, and this is kind of like, it's a little tricky to get the information, but West Hartford did just pass something similar, not for freshmen, but they are allowing students in 11th grade to choose between what they're calling U.S. history or I don't know the exact name for it, but an African American Latinx infused U.S. history course. So students in 11th grade in West Hartford can now choose in a similar way between the two courses. I felt this was the best pathway for us rather than do that with the U.S. history because of the other requirements that the state has for us. Students need to take civics, so we're not going to disrupt that, right? Students need to take a U.S. history course, and we weren't thinking of replacing or providing an option with that. The other thing is the modern global history class. We really can't provide options during that 10th grade year because Holocaust education is also mandated, and that's where we do it, is during primarily in the 10th grade modern global course. So with all of that said, I did want to give Deja a chance to talk a little bit about the course. It's a really magnificent course. Students love the course, and on top of it, we've tried to work out some really nice partnerships with our Windsor Historical Society, to do things with them in partnership, and Deja can tell you more, but I want to pass it to her because you're going to want to hear from her and not from me any longer.
Hi. So I'm just kind of thinking about the day-to-day of the course. I think one of the other reasons why this proposal is really will be really helpful for students is just because a lot of the course assessments are project-based and student-centered. So it really allows them to kind of get grounded. Right now, currently, our students are prepping up to do oral history interviews with activists with local activists all over as a culminating assessment for their activism unit. They put together gallery walks. They've put together PowerPoints presentations discussions. So I think that that also is kind of a good grounding, especially for the history courses that they'll have to follow. I also think that just baked into the curriculum, there's a huge focus on community, identity, students being able to really get into those social emotional skills of working together, creating great bonds, which I think will really be helpful for our ninth grade students who are coming into the school system. You'll hear that just in kind of Damila's thoughts on kind of what the course has done for her. So I think those are the kind of pieces why I think the course would be really helpful. And I can answer any questions if anyone has anything specific. I would also say one other piece is that we have the African American and Latino requirement, but we also have coming from the new implementation of new legislation for Indigenous studies and Asian American studies, both of which kind of come in within the course. So it also is kind of keeping up to date with the pace of the state, in addition to the fact that a lot of the principles that are covered in the course are also going to be covered in the new Connecticut social studies standards, which were just rewritten. So I think it is kind of going to be helping us kind of keep above the pace and setting a standard.
Do you want to share your student stuff now?
Yes, I can share. So this is from Damila. So she's grade 11. So she said, African American and Latino studies had a tremendous impact on me since I enrolled in the course. This class gave me a new sense of identity because I learned new information that had a major impact on me as a Black female student. This gave me the strength to express my culture and who I am without being afraid or embarrassed. Not only did it provide me with self-determination, but it had an impact on my knowledge of history and different cultures. This course helped me have a better understanding of Black and Latino studies and their correlation with the contributions to society, the economy, and culture in the United States. The course is a way of decolonizing the stereotypes that are presented in society. So that was from my grade 11 student. And then I have a grade 9 student, freshman. She didn't write, but she just kind of said that she thinks that the course is really has been really impactful for her, kind of not only as a freshman, but just as a person. She identifies as Afro-Latina. And so having a space in which she can kind of like have that expressed, it was a really important space for her. And like I said, she's actually one of, just speaking to the fact that she is a freshman, I don't see really a difference in terms of the students being able to do anything. I've had a lot of visitors come to the class, and they always kind of remark on how a lot of the students kind of act like undergrads and freshmen, like undergraduates. They are able to kind of keep up with the language as long as there's proper scaffolding. So I don't have any worries about ninth graders being able to access the content.
And just to be preemptive, I think the question is going to come up about how we would section this. And Dana's here, Dana Fudge is here, but we would talk more about this. But I think what we would aim to do is we would have freshmen in freshman-only sections, and then anyone taking it as an elective would take it in an elective section separately. And it's not, like Deja's saying, it's not because the freshmen are unable to access the course, but if we do have like just a freshman group, it might just help, I think, from an instructional standpoint to meet their needs a little bit better. And I could imagine, so currently we run early global at college level and honors, and I would imagine that as long as we have enough students that want to take it at the two different levels, we could do the same thing. So it would be, we'd have to gauge a little bit from our incoming ninth graders and future ninth graders who wants to do this. But I would work, we would work with Principal Parker, his team, Dana, to actually, for the kind of the technical side of it with the scheduling. We're happy to take any questions, feedback.
Questions?
Your votes of approval, whatever.
Mr. Panos, do you want to start?
So this is taking this early global, which is a survey course, and you're replacing it with a more specific study. This would be comparable to something like, let's say British history or something like this, or Chinese history, or East, it's like a specialty. It's not really a subject. When you take global, it is a survey course, and it's of the ancient world, and it includes Africa, it includes India, it includes indigenous, it includes all of these things. It's just like modern does the same thing. We call these, survey. And then you if you want, you can specialize and take an elective that would specialize, you know. So I think the way you're doing it now makes a bit more sense. You want them to have a good grounding in all of the areas. So
You're getting the grounding in, do you want to take it? Or
I can.
So you-
Okay,
so-
yeah, please. I think the one thing that is the course still covers all of those major themes that you would cover in an early modern global course. So you're still talking, it's not as if it's more kind of looking at those same themes that you would address in the early modern global class or any U.S. history class, but just through an African American and Latino lens. So it's kind of the same themes are being covered is what I'm.
well, right, and in the other way around, too. As you point out yourself, when you take U.S. history or civics or modern global, it will also include parts
Right,
of...
that's why it's an option. So if students want to take a
Well, that's what-
global
yeah.
class, they can take a global class. The skills
Right,
and
but-
competencies that they're going to be learning in either class will lend themselves to their future social studies or history learning that will come in subsequent years. I think, I mean, we can get into a debate on it, but I would argue that U.S. history is a specialized course. I mean, U.S. history is U.S. history. It is
Right, but it
covering
includes-
a specific
but it-
aspect of history.
But it includes African American history.
Not necessarily through the lens.
Better.
No, it doesn't. Maybe here and there, but it's
Well,
not an African American Latinx
It's a
course.
survey course, that's why. And, I mean, the reason for studying U.S. history as opposed to some other country's history should be obvious, right? But it includes that part of African American history,
So
which is within the United States. And so
What do you think a student would not be able to do if they took the African American Latinx course instead of the early global course and then went on in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year?
They would be missing the deeper understanding of the wider understanding of early global, which, you know, they would only get a smattering of in the 6th and 7th. We don't give them credit.
It's not a smattering. We cover 4 regions over the course of the entire year. That's each year. So they're covering 8 regions of the world in 6th and 7th
So
grade.
it's equivalent to a high school course.
We actually had high school teachers who help write the courses, yes, and we're following the frameworks. It is it's 4 regions over the course of an entire school year.
Well, okay. I don't know how to say that it is, but it doesn't, you know, it's not unusual to have history, you know, when you teach history at the elementary or middle, you're going to include all of these things anyway. So all you're doing is at the high school level, you teach them not something different, but a deeper understanding of all these levels, all these areas that you talk about. You can't deal with it at the same level. That's true of all history. With it, you teach history in the 4th grade, or you're supposed to, and it goes like a spiral.
I disagree with you. We've disagreed before.
Okay, I disagree with you. Okay, fine. Okay.
I disagree with you,
disagree?
and I
Okay.
think there's an intentionality behind offering this course as an option. There's an intentionality behind it. The intentionality, and I'll put this on me since I was the one who brought it forward to Dr. Hill and Dr. Haiti, and I've been really thinking about bringing this forward for some time now, is specifically to offer a course, like Deja said, that offers African American Latinx perspective and lens for history, which is a valid and important aspect of history. So that's the intention of it. The intention is to bring forward a course that honors those histories. If a student doesn't want to take it, or a student wants to take early global, they can take that. If they choose to take this class, then they're going, like Deja said, they're still going to be hitting major themes, concepts, and competencies in history that will prepare them for what is coming next. That's why we're proposing it as a choice. And if they've been with us in 6th and 7th grade, they have spent 2 years on 8 regions of the world on a course that's aligned with the C3 frameworks that is very global in nature. That's what they're doing for 2 years. So for students that might feel that they're ready to move on to something different or maybe want to pursue this kind of history, then this is an option for them. I'm not going to sugarcoat it or try to I personally wanted to bring this forward. I think it's important that our students, 70% of our students are students of color. And then I live in town. I am a white person. I would want my kids, my boys to take a class like this. It's just as important for them as it is for our students of color. There's an intentionality around it when we're living in a town like Windsor to offer a course that is purposeful in the instruction around African American Latinx history. If someone doesn't want to take it, they don't have to take it. I think the idea of saying what I'm kind of getting is like, and maybe I'm perceiving it wrong, is that it's in some ways less valuable, or it's not going to provide the same overview, it's not going to provide students with the same skills and competencies. It absolutely will, and it will prepare them just as well. So I don't necessarily agree with your perception of it, of this idea of a survey course. I mean, we just don't agree.
Other questions?
I don't
Ms.
agree.
Claes?
So I just wanted to say I appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into this, and I understand that the students will already had early global studies. I think we have similar models where in 12th grade, I believe you can take civics or American history or U.S. history.
You can take civics or AP
The
Gov.
AP, right, AP Gov. So we do provide choices. I also think as a result of that, the legislation that created this course and the legislation that's coming, we will see more of this as requirements. So I think this is a proactive kind of step. And for many of the reasons that you talked about, both of you, I think it's a great idea. So for me, I will support this, and I think it does offer our students a choice. And what's most important is that our students come out with a skill check. And we just talked about one of the things about keeping students on track is engagement. And so if we can offer them curricula that is engaging to them, then I'm all for supporting that, because I believe it will support their academic performance as well. So thank you.
Ms. Cantor?
Thank you. I was wondering if there's any way, if a student wanted to take early global studies, just to get more involved, if they could take the African American and Latinx history course too, if you could split it out in half, or because I know you're saying it was hard to accommodate the schedules. Could you split it out for half a year, like to have kids take both and do something like that to accommodate?
So currently, there is a proposal that may be going to the state to be able to split that in half. Currently, the requirement requires for students to be able to take that year-long course just because of the fact that there are two different sections. There's African American and Latino studies. Currently, there is a proposal that's going forth, but I think in the meantime, it's kind of important for districts, as other districts have been doing. This isn't necessarily just a Windsor issue. This is something that's been rolling out across the state, is trying to figure out ways to have it be kind of baked into existing districts. And like Bonnie's already mentioned, West Hartford has their own kind of place. Norwalk also has been piloting different ways of being able to incorporate the course into their existing frameworks.
Thank you. I just was thinking that, some kids are really into the history, and I just thought it would be an opportunity if you could split it, you know what I mean, to give them, with the schedule being so tight, you can't accommodate.
I mean, they still could conceivably, the students who are taking it now as an elective, because we didn't offer this option, that's what they did. They took early global, modern, U.S., civics, or they will be, and taking the full year. They prioritized it and put it in as an elective in their schedule. So it is possible to do that, and you do need additional humanities credit now for graduation, so it absolutely can fulfill that, and it can fit in there. It just, for some students, it can be really tricky, especially I would think our students that have they have music, they have ROTC, they have their CTE courses, they have all this, you have your AP courses, and it can get tricky. So this is another avenue. Students absolutely would be invited as it stands now, because we can't split, we're not splitting the course, although that may happen, to still take early global and take this as an elective, because we still want to offer both pathways. And it's possible. You have students doing it right now. We have students signed up for it for next year, and about 15 students who are doing it in that capacity. So they're already following the Windsor, so far, typical required progression for social studies, and then they're taking it as an elective.
So are you teaching this full high school?
Yes. Yeah. So I teach one, currently I taught last year, and I also teach it this year. And I just wanted to also mention, I think this is also important just for us to remember that the course didn't necessarily come out of like the legislation house. This course was fought for and advocated by students. And so when students are and all the students have kind of expressed that, I can say that they've been very vocal about that. They love hearing people talk about the course and being able to ask and kind of talk about their experiences in the course. So I think that the best thing that we can do is kind of be able to facilitate that for all of our students to be able to have that opportunity. And I think it's beneficial for all students to take the course.
Further questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Halleck and then Mr. Panos.
go ahead.
Thank you. I guess one thing I'm just struggling on is, offering this as an elective in freshman year. Usually, when we see electives, as West Hartford is doing, it's usually in the junior or senior year. So that's kind of where I'm struggling with that at the moment. One other comment I wanted to make is that this is a big decision here, and I definitely think we should have a second reading so that we can hear more public comment. And that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to speak
Other
about the
questions, Mr. Panos?
Yeah,
And then,
Can we respond to and
Okay,
we might have
sorry.
additional, questions for you about what some of your concerns are, but I'll have Deja take, in terms of talking about the freshmen maybe who are in your class, and however you want.
Yeah, I think one part that's really important, and this is just for me fundamentally as an educator, I don't think our kids are not able to do it. It's just about having the proper scaffolding before. I have freshmen who are talking about and using terms like modernity, using terms like decolonization. I don't think that they can't handle it. So I don't think that the freshmen are in any way going to be kind of like lost. I also think that it is a really good, because the course is a survey course. It covers a lot of different time periods. I do think that it'll be really important for freshmen to have that overview of kind of U.S. history from many different standpoints that will help them further whenever they're looking at global history, whenever they're looking at U.S. history, whenever they're looking at civics. It really does touch on each of the courses. So I don't think that freshmen necessarily are going to be lacking, or it should. I don't necessarily think that because it's viewed as an elective doesn't mean that it shouldn't be a requirement.
Okay.
Okay, you want to talk? All right.
you haven't spoken yet.
I haven't spoken yet.
Well, let's,
Okay, yeah, you already.
Mr. Lockhart.
So I want to make sure I didn't miss something. I thought I heard during the presentation that if it's offered during the freshman year, in lieu of the course that's always offered during the freshman year, it could be count towards a social study credit. If it's offered in the junior year, at that point, it's an elective. Is that the understanding?
Yes.
Okay, I just
Or
want to make
any
sure.
other, it could be sophomore.
Or elective or humanities or something of that nature, but.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
Yes.
So it doesn't count against the number of electives that are later available, because if they take it, they can take it as the requirement. They could take later, if they decide to, they really want or early global studies, they could take that as an elective down the road.
No, we're not
No?
proposing that early global becomes an elective at other grade
Okay.
levels. There are other global courses that can be taken as electives, but the
This is still a
modern
ninth grade.
global course in sophomore year would still be required.
Yes.
So that would not, and I mean, that would be a major change to then offer early global as an elective. So it wouldn't be like an exchange where if you take the African American Latinx course as a freshman, then you could take your early global later on. We wouldn't be doing that. That's not part of the proposal.
Mr. Panos?
Well,
Oh,
I know that-
sorry.
yeah, So, for me personally, during my time in school, many moons ago, there were certain perspectives that I didn't get until I was in college. Latin history, Canadian history, Caribbean history, even certain areas of Asia's history. Definitely African American history. I didn't get any of that, and I went to Hartford Public Schools, which was almost all minority in the north end of Hartford. So to hear that the students within Windsor have been advocating and pushing for this, yes, there's a lot of this been pushed at the state level. I do understand that, but a lot of this is being pushed on what I'm hearing you say is there's students in Windsor that have been pushing this, and that's how a lot of this has come about, so. Statewide, okay.
Statewide and within, like I said, I wish that I could have them here, all 13 of them. I swear, all of them are in agreement that the course has been very beneficial for them.
I just wish that during my time I would have had opportunity to learn more about not just my history, but other people's history. I didn't get a lot of Holocaust history in my time in grade school and through high school. It was just the times at that point. So to hear different perspectives and create a well-rounded student, so when they go off to the next phase of life, whether it's college, the military, whether it's the professional business world, you're able to engage in different cultures and to be able to understand them and understand their perspective, and even more important, they can understand your perspective as well. So I will be in support of this. I do hear Mr. Halleck's concern that he feels that this should be a second reading, and I agree that is his right to do so if he feels within himself that it needs to be flushed out. But I thank you for the work that you put into this.
Mr. Panos.
Yeah, we don't select, in a public school setting, we don't select courses based upon the demographics of the school. If it were 100% Asian or 90% Asian students or something like this, and we would not say that this would be a requirement, and we're going to take this as, the global study is exactly that. It is precisely global. So that's the reason for preferring that. There's no other intentionality. And so you can, and within these, you receive Latin history, all of the histories you're talking about. In fact, we receive a lot of this history, we're supposed to, all through the school system, and you'll get it. You'll get it, like I say, in U.S. history. I don't know why you wouldn't. Yes, it would be. And so, I think that these are too specific for a public school system, and to make it, to take it off, and to make it, something that you would use as a requirement for graduation. Now, it is excellent that it is offered as we do, as an elective, and someone can take it. And so I think it's good for that way, and I think it should stay the way it is.
So I'd like to address that. So, because I don't want wrong information in the public.
Dr. Hill and then Mr. Wollaston.
Just to be clear, so to a great point, Mr. Panos is correct. The curriculum across the United States is pretty standard, has been for 100 and something years. And I bet none of you could tell me why it is the way it is, but I won't bet you right now. Easy money. But there are courses that get included in districts around the country, Mr. Panos, based on the demands of the student in the community. That's actually the purpose of your body. That's what you're here for. So if your community says, this is what we want, and it's within your legal purview, you have the right to do it or not do it. But you can't say that people don't have courses that are connected to a majority body in their school systems. You're in San Francisco, you're absolutely going to find districts that are going to have courses around Asian history, and there'll be graduation requirements, some, there'll be elective, some. But people make those decisions all the time. I just want you to know that, so boards can do that. If there's no, the standard curriculum that's out there in America, I understand people are fighting for it, and it is what it is. I'm not trying to present an argument for that, but a Board of Education has the right to vote in what it wants for its local school district. That's actually what you're supposed to be doing. That's the biggest focus, your policy, it's your school district, you meet the state standards, and then you have requirements that you can have for yourself. So you have the right to do that. I just want to be clear, and districts do it. Some do, some don't.
I'm not saying that you don't have a right to do it. But I would say that that the proper way is to offer it as an elective.
Mr. Wollaston.
I'd just like to say, amazing presentation. Thank you guys for your time and your energy, and even staying out with us so late to answer these questions. And I'd also like to end by saying I'm not in support of a second reading. I believe you were very clear and concise, and that's all I have to say.
Anyone else before I have my my remarks. Ms. Taylor.
Okay. So, just for clarity, this is not a mandatory class.
No, it's an option.
This is an option. I underlined it. It's an option for our ninth graders in place of early global studies. So you could, if you wanted to, take early global studies for ninth grade. This is an option. Okay, great. Yay, that's my vote. No second reading, also my vote. But I'll have President Fury take it away.
I'm also supportive of this, and again, the idea of it being an option, not requiring the students to take it. I myself was hoping that the state would actually have passed a requirement for this class. I told our representatives that time, including Bobby Gibson, no longer our representative, that I supported that, and I think it would be a good idea to have it a required course. So having this as an option early on, I'm not a big fan of mandates, that unless it's really something important in a district. I don't like the state mandates as much as we have, because I think as much as it's important to have a certain core curriculum for our students, this is the kind of class I think that could excite ninth grade students about being at Windsor High in ninth grade. I think my first exposure to anything extensive was Black literature class in college. So I will support this in the way it's been presented. And I agree that one, it's an option. Two, you've expressed very well that students who are already in 6th and 7th grade have had 2 full years of similar global studies. So I'm supported.
Did you want to?
That's his purview if he wishes to.
We have just one more.
Yeah, and I just wanted to just say, I think also this is kind of critical for students in general to be able to have access to courses like this. They're teaching undergrads. There's a lot of history that's covered in the course that undergrads are coming in not having. So it's kind of leaving our students at a disadvantage for them to not have access to that. So I think that's also really important. And it's all of our history. It's not like your history, my history. It's all of our story. If you don't really understand African American and Latinx history, then you don't really understand U.S. history. So that's going to be an important piece.
Okay. Ms. Cantor?
Thank you. I do have a question. They've already covered early global studies in 7th and 8th grade, or 6th, 7th, and 8th, and they have that as a freshman, is it deeper that they're covering? Longer, deeper?
A little bit, but we've been toying with the idea for a long time, like since I've been in this role, of revamping the progression because of that. Part of it is we rewrote the 6th and 7th grade curriculum in 2021 was when the board approved it. So we sort of just did that and implemented it, which means now we would need to go back and change the progressions at the high school level, which we haven't done yet. So this is something that I think was going to be not necessary with this particular course, but the need to revamp what we were doing that freshman year. Students were telling us that it was redundant if in some ways. Some of the materials they're reading are obviously going to be more complex because of like their reading level might be a little bit higher, but it's a lot of it is repeated. And it was an overlap because of us redoing and basically realigning our 6th and 7th grade curriculum around the frameworks which we had not done before. Once we did that, then we were starting to look at what are we going to need to do at the high school level to avoid those kinds of issues. Could it go deeper into the topics? In some cases, but sometimes it's a refresher, which isn't a bad thing either. I mean, it's not a bad course. I'm not saying that. It's the idea of having the option to do the other course. And we are going to be looking more closely once I get through the prioritized projects around K-3 literacy, 7th grade ELA, and some other things that are at the top of the docket at this point. We will be looking at what we would want to propose more permanently with that particular course which is something that the previous department chair and I had long talks about.
Thank you.
Okay, without any questions, there's been a motion by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Ms. Taylor. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
No.
Nay.
Abstentions? Motion carries 5-3-0. Next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
None that I'm aware of, Mr.
Seeing
President.
and hearing none. Other matters, announcements. Next Board of Ed meeting is Tuesday, May 16th, right here in the LPW boardroom. Ms. Daly, we'll have another round of audience to visitors. If you could read your script again.
Good evening, this is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If there is anyone from the public who would like to address the board, you may do so in different ways. If you are using the Zoom application on your mobile device or computer, you may enter your comments into the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the Zoom menu bar. Or you may raise your hand on your computer if your device has a microphone by selecting the participant's icon on the Zoom menu bar and then clicking Raise Hand, or by dialing *9 on your phone. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address. When you are called on, you'll be prompted with "You are now unmuted." For clear communication, we ask that you do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own.
Okay, we'll go again with anybody in the boardroom here who'd like to address the Board of Education. Seeing none, is there anybody online or on the phone?
There are no hands raised, although there were 2 consecutive comments made by the same individual after the closing of the first audience to visitors.
Do they list their names and addresses?
No address, but name.
What is the thought of the group here? It's usually our protocol. Okay. Okay, why don't you read them?
Certainly. My name is Carolyn Taylor, and I am the general music teacher at Clover Street and Pequannock School. I would like to echo Ms. Lewin's sentiments in regards to the disparities of staffing and opportunity for our students in the special areas. These disparities create inequity for our teachers and students, not only in their instruction, but also in terms of building our school communities. We know that strong relationships between staff and students is integral in student success, and research shows us that the arts, in particular, have profound impact on the development of social emotional skills and learning in adults and children. It is incredibly difficult to build relationships and grow our art and music programs with special projects and performances when we are only in the building 1 to 3 days a week.
Is that the only comment?
That is the only comment.
Okay, without objection, I'd like to close audience to visitor. One more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I think we're so late with comments.
Are you going to do announcements? No, there's just.
No.
You want to do announcements?
You just got to do
Anybody
the
want-
report. You just got
You
to.
don't need.
She just announced the next board meeting.
I did.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, do you move? it?
Yes, I do. You want
Well,
to?
you're not letting us go back and forth.
No.
Yeah.
I move to adjourn.
You second the motion?
Oh, wait.
Who made the motion?
Mr. Panos.
Then I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor, Mr. Wollaston, he objects, okay.
Discussion, my announcements, which is just my last closing remarks.
Okay, he wants to
So,
have.
it's discussion. We can choose this opportunity to speak, right?
All right, is there a motion?
I yield then.
So, if people want their comments, just let them have their comments.
Okay, we
Would you
withdraw
withdraw?
my motions.
Are there any announcements? Mr. Wollaston?
Yes, so my announcements are really just my closing remarks, and that's just to say that across the state we see a big push of privatization in education, and just how it has affected many towns and many cities. And the reason for my push for investment was because I'm looking down the road. I'm not just looking at what we can do for today to meet today's needs or the needs of next year, but I want to make sure that in 10 years, when I have a kid that's going to these schools, the school is well fit enough to serve my child. I want to make sure that if there's a charter that pops up in Hartford, or if we get much more magnet growth in the surrounding area, we're not so lowly funded, or we're not competitive enough where people can say, with my choice, I choose to go to Windsor High. So my only thing with investing in our schools, which would be investing in our plants, our physical plants, to make sure our buildings are attractive enough and well-running enough to attract people to actually want to physically be inside the schools, but as well as making sure we have the investment within our education as well, that people can say, hey, this school is performing really well. And I do agree that sometimes less is more, but sometimes more is also more as well. So I'm just hoping that we as a body can look to that towards the future, and maybe we can put together something in long-range planning to perhaps meet those needs, or figure out what we can do to roll out a plan to be able to ensure that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we are still a district that is attractive for people to come to, because kids have choice. At the end of the day, that's the law. It's what happened with Chef, but we have to ensure that we are the best choice here at Windsor Public Schools. That's what we have to do to keep running. If we don't ensure we're the best choice, then we will not be the choice that people choose. And we see it happening in Dearborn, we see it happening in Bridgeport, and it's happening in Hartford as well with the rest magnets. So we have a duty here, because the school can be the school now, and we can operate the way we operate now, but there's no guarantee that we are able to do this like the way we're doing it for the next 10, 15, or even 20 years. And my kids are going to be the ones that are going to be here to deal with it.
Thank you. Other announcements? Mr. Panos?
I noticed that I should have taken out the Human Resources report that Allison Edwards is I guess, retiring. So, I mean, that's quite a loss here. We've had her for many, many years. So I'd just like to mention that. And so, hopefully, that she'll be given a good send-off there. I just want to express my thanks to all her hard work over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Ms. Cantor?
I believe there's a curriculum meeting next week on Thursday.
Thought that was canceled.
Oh, it's canceled? Oh, okay.
Yep.
I'll have to cross it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Now is,
Okay.
somebody else? Mr. Halleck?
I just want to welcome back our teachers and our staff and our students from their spring break. I hope everyone had a restful period, and hopefully we can finish out the year in a strong way. Thank you.
Here, here. Anyone else? Last call. Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think we did that purposely so you wouldn't make the motion. So. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 5-0-0. We are adjourned at 10:12.
Good evening, everyone.
I just felt keeping everybody here.